The manhwa commenced with an adventurous party making their way into the dungeon. As one person supported an injured companion, he reassured, "You just need to hold on for a bit longer." However, the injured person collapsed, prompting another to exclaim, "How many people have collapsed at this point? The healers won't have enough mana at this rate. Won't we just die at this rate?" Undeterred, the injured person insisted, "It's fine, we have the Empire. Hero Burn is with us." Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. If you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing. Burn reassured them, saying, "You guys must be still fine if I can hear your voice from here. Let's put in a bit more effort." Another party member echoed, "Yes, Hero." Burn revealed the challenges, stating, "My party members are starting to waver. When we first departed, we had 74 people in our subjugation party. But now, we only have 43 people left with me. We didn't lose 31 people, 43 people simply survived. We were just unable to protect our 31 allies, even though everyone gave it their all. Because this place is one of the 7 malevolent dungeons, the core of the ancient." His thoughts were interrupted as someone pointed towards a large dark room, saying, "Sir Burn, look over there." Burn thought. Finally they had arrived. This was the end of the dungeon, the end of the core of the ancient. They had reached the finish line of their adventure after making so many sacrifices. Countless unimaginable treasures were stored here. If they were lucky, this place could also hold the greatest fruits of humanity, the 36 virtuous masterpieces. Not to mention, this was also the resting place of the dungeon's master. As they heard rumblings surround them, Burn commanded, "Everyone, get into formation. Swordsmen and those with shields to the front, magicians create light. We need to prioritize our vision." As the rumbling suddenly came to a stop, the magician said, "I'll shine a bit more light. Everyone, keep your guard up." As the magician's magic illuminated the area, they saw a huge monster in front of them, its gaze fixed on the intruders. Seeing the monster open its mouth as if to devour them, Burn shouted, "Run away! This is impossible!" A little later, a skeleton named Patrick asked, "So, to summarize the situation, humans entered in droves while you were asleep, and since you fought them despite your tired condition, you did plenty. Am I getting this right?" The boss monster, named Swallow, replied, "Yup. I faced 2 enemies at the same time, both humans and my exhaustion." On that note, Patrick, could you please calm down? Patrick exclaimed, "Calm down? Do you think I'd be able to calm down in a situation like this? How could someone who's supposed to be the boss monster doze off until humans were right in front of him? How does it make any logical sense for you to carelessly yawn in front of them? This is a matter of mindset." Patrick turned to Renee and asked, "What do you think?" Renee replied, "But he overwhelmed humans with just a yawn." "I am shocked by your grandeur once more, Lord Swallow." Patrick, irritated by Renee's remark, retorted, "Yeah, let's just give up on everything. This dungeon is screwed." Swallow advised, "Don't be like that." As he explained, apparently, worrying too much is bad for one's bones. This place is known as one of the 7 malevolent dungeons that humanity has deemed impossible to raid, referred to as the core of the ancient. Most dungeon raids end with humans as the victors because the relationship between the humans, who can attack whenever they please, and the monsters, who must be prepared to defend whenever, is not equal. This repetitive warfare only weakens the dungeons. However, during a period when countless dungeons were raided and created, there were exceptions. There were dungeons that humanity could not raid, which was an obvious fact. These dungeons were known as the Malevolent Dungeons, specifically the 7 Malevolent Dungeons. Humanity temporarily placed these 7 dungeons on hold and deemed them impossible to clear. Among these notorious dungeons, the core of the ancient was the most diabolical. It had numerous monsters defending the dungeon, along with the dungeon's guardians protecting the 3 different paths. The left path, known as the Red Path, was defended by a homunculus known as Blade Maid named Renee. The central blue path was defended by a Death Knight named Patrick. As for the path to the right, which was infested with filth, accurate information about it was yet to be discovered. It was guarded by an unknown number of tentacles. And ruling over this impenetrable dungeon was an ancient monster, known as Swallow, which held a prominent place in the Empire's myths. Renee closed the book and said, "So it's written? After spreading books like this to the humans as you ordered, Lord Swallow, the number of intruders has definitely increased." Swallow replied, See, there's a know-how to maintaining dungeons too, you know? If we surround ourselves in mystery too much, humans won't even think about coming in. We need to give them a bit of information like this so that they start thinking, we know quite a bit about that dungeon, and things like that. They run in like moths to a flame, not knowing that more than half of the information in here is false. Still, even so, I never expected for them to come in droves like this. Was it 74 of them all combined? Renee confirmed, yes. However, the majority of their equipment was melted down by 116 black tentacles, so they're unusable. The ones that are still usable are all quite expensive. But if it was her, she would have been able to take care of them without damaging the goods. Swallow chuckled. Sure, and transform into a human. I'm sure that you would have been able to do it. Renee smiled. Meanwhile, Patrick stared at both of them from a distance and asked, Excuse me, we're gathered here for a meeting, aren't we? Did we just get together to play? So why are the two of you so excited? He started laughing and said, The mood here is so sweet that even being around you guys might give me a cavity. But I doubt it's just my teeth that would rot. I bet it would rot the rest of my skull too. Also, boss, if you're going to polymorph, why don't you do it properly? Did you even notice that you had 6 fingers when you patted Renee just now? Swallow acknowledged. You're right, he really do have 6. Patrick responded. Still, it's better than last time. You had more than 40 teeth then. When you smiled, I got chills all the way down my spine. Renee addressed Patrick. The sound of your jaw clacking is way too loud. Patrick thought to himself, I can't put up with this shit anymore. I should just quit being a fucking guardian. Renee then stated, Then we will get to the main points. She is sure that all of you already know, but humans have finally started going through the right path. The problem is that during that process, 116 black tentacles who defended the right path received huge injuries. It is in critical condition. However, her talk was interrupted as Swallow interjected. Well, don't worry so much. Tentacles regeneration is no joke. We can watch over it for a while and find another guardian if it doesn't look too good. Patrick said to Swallow, Boss, in that case, could you look for 2 guardians while you are at it? I want to quit too. Swallow asked, What are you talking about? You're my slave for life. Swallow continued. Regardless, humans will start taking only the right path now. Patrick voiced concern. They could be forming another subjugation party right now. Renee added, Humans these days use communication spells a lot to message each other, so the information about the right path being opened could have spread everywhere. Swallow agreed. Alright, then we should also create an appropriate counter-strategy. Listen carefully, we're going to be changing our assignments. Swallow instructed Renee. First, you have been guarding the red path up until now, right? I want you to take the infected path to the right now. The subjugation parties will swarm and they're thinking that there's an opening, so I just need you to protect that. Renee said, I can defend against any number of humans, Lord Swallow. Swallow turned to Patrick and said, I want you to take care of the red path that Renee had been defending. Patrick asked, Me? Why? Swallow replied, When the humans realize that Renee is on the infected path, they will change their direction to the red path instead. You'll be there to defend that, Patrick. If we do this, we'll be able to defend against 2 attacks. Patrick exclaimed, Hold on, boss! What are you going to do if humans take the central blue path? Swallow sighed and said, We'll have no other choice. They'll just get a direct date with me. Patrick questioned, What kind of shitty plan is this? Renee chimed in, This is so perfect, Lord Swallow. It seems like the most pressing matter is taken care of. Now the only thing that's left is to handle what to do with that sword. Swallow asked, What sword? Patrick explained, She's referring to the sword that the leader of the subjugation party used. I can't believe he was using a sword like that. The humans that came this time were quite strong. Swallow asked again, Like I said, what sword? Patrick replied, I'm sure you've heard about it before too, boss. The 36 virtuous masterpieces. They are quite famous weapons among the humans. Some of them aren't really weapons though. Regardless, I think this was the 14th, and I think its name was Tannabella. Swallow recalled. I remember now. The 36 master chefs or whatever? I think we have a few more like them in the storage. Patrick mentioned. No masterpieces, just informed Swallow that Renee wields one of the 36 masterpieces. Swallow noted. The humans had formidable weapons this time. Patrick pondered. What to do with this? Giving it to a monster near the entrance is risky. Retrieving it from humans would be troublesome, right? Consequently, Patrick suggested, Swallow should handle this. Swallow, aware of Patrick's sword skills, suggested, Why not use it yourself? Patrick, surprised, asked, Really? Swallow confirmed, Yes. Patrick chuckled, conceding, Guess I have no choice then. Following Swallow's orders, I'll take care of it. In the core of the ancient, a domain with a formidable homunculus made, a death knight emitting deathly vibes, and a colossal ancient monster, Swallow quietly expressed. By giving Patrick the sword, I want him to discard that resignation letter hidden in his ribcage. Renee, a loyal sunflower solely focused on Swallow. Patrick, the dungeon's conscience and a boss grilling expert. Lord Swallow, an ancient monster embodying laziness. Renee asked Lord Swallow what they should do with the remaining profits. Lord Swallow replied that they should do what they usually do, using whatever they can and using anything that isn't useful as bait for the next adventurers. Renee assured Lord Swallow that she would take care of the distribution. Lord Swallow agreed. Renee then mentioned that the problem was that there weren't any monsters in particular who needed magic items. She suggested selling the mana stones instead, as it would bring in quite a bit of money. Lord Swallow questioned if that was the case and wondered if he should go to the human village. Both Patrick and Renee was surprised by his suggestion, and Swallow asked why. Patrick chimed in, suggesting that it would be better if Renee went instead, as Lord Swallow was clumsy at transforming into a human and his tail was showing. Lord Swallow agreed and told Renee to bring back lots of tasty things. The next day, Renee commented on the good weather and stated that she would be going. At the nearby town's Adventurers Guild building, a person informed Renee that they couldn't possibly buy the mana stones from her. Renee asked why not, and the person explained that the stones she brought were bigger than a B-rank mana stone, which would take an average commoner 10 years to save up for. The person mentioned that stones like hers could only be used by an Imperial Palace magician or a high-ranking magician at a magic tower. Renee thought about going to the capital, or a magic tower, but preferred not to go to a magic tower unless it was for Lord Swallow. Finally, Renee declared that she would be going. The person said, Take care, kiddo. As he realized one of the stones was left behind, he said, Hey kid, you left one behind. Renee said, That is a tip, thanks for the information, human. The person said, What a strange brat, you're a human as well, you know. As she arrived at the magic tower wing, one of the representatives of the tower said, So you're here to sell mana stones? In that case, it'd be better to consult with the guild master. I'll guide you to the office, please follow me. As Renee followed him, she thought, So it's structured so that the head of the tower resides at the top. The humans' magic towers are similar to dungeons. Her thoughts were interrupted as the person said, This way. As she entered the room, she was welcomed by the guild master saying, Thank you for coming all the way here. I'm Graumitzhammer, the leader of this magic tower wing. And what is your name? Renee thought, This human has some quite impressive mana, and she said, I'm Rin. Graumitzhammer said, I was going to ignore you since you're a kid, but the guard said you brought a bunch of mana stones with you. You're probably familiar with our magic tower wing's reputation, right? I trust you bought high-ranking mana stones suitable for our status. Renee said, See for yourself. Seeing the mana stones, Graumitz was surprised and thought, These are A-rank mana stones? They're all of the highest quality, comparable to the highest-ranking A-rank mana stones. These aren't something a kid should have. This kid, who is she? And Graumitz asked, Where did you find these? Graumitz thought, Hang on, now that I think of it, that hair. There's a family with silver hair among the 8 great houses of the empire. Could it be that the daughter of that house ran away from home and secretly brought the stones here? I can't think of any other way for such a young girl to have mana stones like these. In any case, she's a noble lady and the world's a dark place. Graumitz apologized for their rudeness and expressed surprise at the high quality of the mana stones. Their wing wished to purchase all of them, offering 50 ounces of gold for each stone and a special price of 80 ounces for the particularly good ones. Renee questioned the price, recalling what the guild representative had told her earlier about the difficulty of saving up enough gold for one stone. Renee calculated that an average commoner earns about 10 ounces of gold per year, so it would take 10 years to save up 100 ounces. Renee warned Graumitz about the consequences of joking around. Gromits admitted that they couldn't afford to buy all the stones even if they used all of their wings' money. Renee suggested buying as many as they could. Later, Gromits revealed that they had 2,000 ounces of gold, which was everything they had. She asked if she could offer items of value in addition to the money in exchange for all the mana stones. Renee questioned the quality of the items and expressed the need for them to be easy to sell. Gromits assured Renee that she didn't have to worry about that and invited her to a forbidden storage area in their tower. Gromits showed Renee various items, including a tiara made of 4-carat diamonds with embedded mana stones, a living black pearl that makes crying sounds near poison, and a work of alchemy. Renee's expressions indicated her lack of interest. Gromits mentioning that alchemy can be seen as a dirty discipline. She then asked about a jewel called the Crimson Love Stone that supposedly makes one's love a reality. Renee was captivated by the idea of a jewel that could make love a reality. She turned to Gromits and inquired if it truly worked for anyone. Gromits, with utmost confidence, assured her that infusing mana into the jewel in front of someone she liked would activate the spirit within, resulting in eternal love between the two individuals. Gromits questioned if this particular jewel suited Renee's preferences. Renee insisted that it had to be this specific jewel. Gromits chuckled and admitted that while he wasn't certain about the other items, this jewel was particularly difficult to obtain due to its ability to steal even the heart of an emperor, making it priceless. Slightly flustered, Renee then presented another item, surprising Gromits. She questioned how a kid came to possess one of the 36 virtuous masterpieces. Renee exclaimed combine all the mana stones from earlier, along with this masterpiece, and demanded that Gromits hand over the jewel. As Renee leaves, a green-haired man with glasses urgently speaks to Gromits Amr, guild master of the magic tower. He's concerned about her decision to give away a heart gem, warning that sending Ren away with it could lead to her death. Gromits, examining a jewel through a monocle, dismisses his concerns. She's indifferent to the fate of the noble lady who traded for the item, her focus solely on the value of the jewel despite the green-haired man's concerns. She remains unconcerned and coldly predicts the demise of the unlucky girl and the person she likes, confident that the curse will leave no evidence behind. The scene then shifts to one of the 7 malevolent dungeons Renee hates, Castle, set against a red and black sky filled with ashes. The castle itself appears ominous with multiple pointed structures stacked together. Inside, a red woman equipped with scissors and a comb prepares to trim Renee's hair, remarking on the dying ends. She snips a piece off as Renee apologizes for her unannounced visit, expressing gratitude for the woman's help. The red-haired woman, Ursabet Bathory, boss of Chait Castle, warmly responds that neighbors should help each other. She enjoys seeing Renee and finds her presence delightful. Ursabet compliments Renee's beauty, making Renee shy and blush. Picking up a comb, Ursabet playfully envies the eternal youth of a homunculus as they look into the mirror. Ursabet holds Renee close, admiring her unaging beauty. Renee, in turn, compliments Ursabet's youthful appearance, noting her paler skin and gesturing toward the extensive beauty treatments and blood required to maintain her looks, evidenced by the backdrop filled with blood, skulls, and pots. Feeling bashful, Renee asks Ursabet for her opinion on her current appearance. Ursabet assures her that she's the most beautiful girl she's ever seen, ranking her as level A. This affirmation brings a smile to Renee's face, brightening her mood. Holding Renee's shoulder, Ursabet gently pokes her face and confidently assures her that no one could resist her charms in her current state, eliciting giggles from Renee. Ursabet curiously inquires about the reason behind Renee's meticulous grooming, playfully suggesting a love confession might be in order. Renee, reflecting quietly in the mirror and clutching a heart-shaped ruby, admits she plans to confess her feelings. Surprised and excited, Renee turns around, her smile revealing her eagerness to declare her love. Ursabet, taken aback by this revelation, initially thinks Renee is joking. Upon pressing for more details, she's shocked to learn that Renee intends to confess to Lord Swallow. Skeptical and somewhat bewildered, Ursabet can hardly believe Renee's serious demeanor. She wonders if Renee's nature as a homunculus might be influencing her peculiar sense of humor. Renee, firm in her resolve, assures Ursabet that her intentions are genuine. Ursabet, struggling to comprehend, asks what Renee finds appealing about Lord Swallow, picturing him as a repulsive nose-picking slob. However, In Renee's eyes, Lord Swallow is a majestic and powerful being. She fondly lists his strengths, and despite acknowledging his flaws like laziness, large build, gluttonous habits, and sloppiness, her affection remains unchanged. Meanwhile, Lord Swallow is seen sprawled on the floor, drooling and asleep, embodying the very traits Renee candidly admits to. Renee asserts that these shortcomings are inconsequential compared to her admiration for him. Ursabet, hearing all this, realizes with astonishment that Renee genuinely cherishes Lord Swallow despite his unappealing traits. Renee confirms her affection for Lord Swallow, and Elizabeth, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder, expresses hope for her success but also suggests that Renee deserves someone better. She playfully winks at Renee, offering her a comforting alternative should Lord Swallow reject her. Renee thanks Elizabeth, and clutching the red heart jewel to her chest, pledges to succeed in her confession. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Castle, Lee's eyes within the dungeon. Subjugation Coalition, a blonde-haired man reports the presumed annihilation of the hero Byrne and his Towel's subjugation party. This announcement causes a stir among those gathered around the table, with one member slamming their hand on the table expressing disbelief. Questions arise since the party had supposedly defeated the Guardian, and skepticism emerges as the bodies haven't been found yet. Despite some insisting that Sir Byrne couldn't have fallen to a monster, another member silently contemplates the reality, suggesting that within a day, it would be clear if they were victorious or defeated. With 2 days past and no word from Byrne, he concludes that Byrne is likely dead, and his powerful weapon, one of the 36 virtuous masterpieces, is lost. The man smiles mischievously, pondering the whereabouts of Byrne's sword, Tambella. The blonde-haired man explains that their communication magic failed upon reaching the ancient heart's core, making it impossible to retrieve Tambella without returning to that area. The group considers their next move, debating whether to venture into the dungeon in search of the lost masterpiece. Discussion intensifies as another member advises against entering the dungeon, citing the failure of Byrne's team and the need to avoid further loss of life. Contrarily, another voice argues for persistence, speculating that if Byrne, heralded as a hero, engaged the boss monster, he must have inflicted significant damage. This person suggests mobilizing their main forces to take advantage of the dungeon's weakened state. An older man at the table, weighed down by the losses already incurred, including one of the Imperial family's prized heroes and a virtuous masterpiece, grapples with the gravity of the situation. He fears the repercussions of another failed mission, or the backlash of an action from the Imperial family. Consumed by doubt, he ponders the possibility that Byrne failed to harm the ancient boss monster, raising the grim prospect that the dungeon might be insurmountable. His concerns voiced aloud leave the group speechless until a new figure, a purple-haired, short-haired man accompanied by 2 cloaked bodyguards, confidently asserts that conquering the dungeon is feasible. This bold claim redirects all attention to him, and the older man standing up questions why the Imperial Magic Research Association, known as the Third Eye, is present. The purple-haired man cryptically hints at the authority they serve, implying involvement from the Imperial family. The old man internally curses the Imperial family's interference. The Third Eye's mere presence instills nervousness among the table members, as he insinuates that their actions have consequences, suggesting they might have to atone for their sins. The Third Eye, glaring with scorn and anger, berates the old man and his colleagues for their ineptitude, blaming them for the death of the revered hero Sir Byrne and the loss of one of the Emperor's valued virtuous masterpieces. The old men at the table, overwhelmed with fear, struggle to respond. The Third Eye, resting his hand on an old man's shoulder, chillingly suggests that their lives could be spared, but only if they agree to his conditions. He leans in and declares that the Emperor demands another raid on the core of the ancients. The old man, skeptical and fearful, questions how they could succeed where Sir Byrne failed. The Third Eye interrupts, introducing Nifrim as the key to their success. This mention of Nifrim stirs whispers and disbelief among the group. One old man expresses doubt, recalling Nifrim as a hybrid with numerous problems. The Third Eye corrects him, asserting Nifrim's success and not a failure. He then challenges the group, asking why Sir Byrne and his team failed. The answer he reveals lies in a crucial element they lacked, something that Nifrim possesses. As a blonde-haired warrior with blue eyes observes the conversation, the Third Eye instructs the group to ensure the success of the upcoming raid. In a different scene, Lord Swallow sneezes, feeling an ominous premonition of an impending storm as dark energy emanates from him. He sneezes again, reverting to his original form. Worried about postponing his patrol duties and anticipating a reprimand from Patrick, he imagines the skeletal figure scolding him, and despite being just a skeleton, Patrick's presence instills fear in Lord Swallow. Dismissing his concerns, Lord Swallow, with some effort, rolls over and gets up, still half lying on the floor. He decides not to bother himself further and considers investigating the sewer pathway where the humans reportedly infiltrated. On his way to the sewers, he stumbles upon a scene of carnage. Several damaged tentacles scattered across the floor, the core of the ancient guardian. The 16 tentacles now slimed together with dark energy, and slowly healing from their recent battle. Lord Swallow realizes there's not much he can do but wait for their natural recovery. Next, he visits the 5th room administered by Anthropo and lands amid a group of mysterious plants. Recalling their regenerative abilities as long as the core body and sufficient nutrients are present, he climbs atop one to inspect it, spotting the intact core body. He's relieved to know that they'll recover without his intervention as the core body retracts into hibernation for further healing. Lord Swallow decides to leave the area and contemplates the damage in rooms 1 to 4. Realizing this situation warrants a discussion with Patrick, he imagines Patrick's likely exasperated reaction to yet more problems. Anticipating another scolding and yawning, he decides to put off further considerations for later, reasoning that he's only inspected the sewer path and room 5 so far. Resigned to addressing these issues later, he decides to take a rest for the time being, prioritizing his immediate need for relaxation over the dungeon problems. Reassured by the satisfactory condition of the areas he has patrolled, Lord Swallow believes Patrick will understand his decision to end the patrol early. Confident that things are under control, he prepares to leave, unaware of a bright sparkling light hidden deep within the cave. Just as he turns to leave, a weapon propelled with great force whizzes past his face and embeds itself in the wall. Startled, Swallow immediately radiates a surge of demonic energy, ready to confront any threat. But then he hears a voice filled with animosity towards humans. A figure steps forward, revealed to be a young girl wielding multiple knives, her hair pulsating with power. Swallow, ready for a confrontation, turns to face her. Upon recognizing the girl as Renee, he relaxes and retracts his dark energy. Renee apologizes to Lord Swallow, who dismisses the apology, noting instead that she seems to have dressed up. Blushing and striking a cute pose, Renee is pleasantly surprised that Lord Swallow noticed her change in appearance. She asks him how she looks, and Lord Swallow, momentarily taken aback, compliments her, suggesting she's dressed for a special occasion. Internally, he fears she might be resigning, especially since she's not in her usual maid uniform. Renee, playing with her hair, confirms that it is indeed a special occasion and asks Lord Swallow if he can spare some time for her. Swallow, fearing the worst, agrees silently, praying she's not about to hand in her resignation. Renee then leads Swallow to a secret spot she has prepared in the lair, complete with a table and 2 chairs. She invites him to sit, promising to bring something for him. Swallow, still anxious about the nature of her request, apprehensively takes a seat, waiting to see what Renee has in store. Overwhelmed with apprehension, Lord Swallow silently pleads for Renee not to resign. As they approach the table she set in their secret spot, Renee serves him smutty tea. Lord Swallow's nerves are palpable, his mind racing with thoughts of her potential resignation. Renee shares that the location was once her private haven, but now it's a secret they both hold. Lord Swallow responds nervously, his anxiety evident as he sips his tea, bracing for what he fears might be her resignation. However, Renee shifts the conversation to reflect on the past. She mentions it's been 8 years since Lord Swallow took her in, a fact that momentarily distracts him from his worries. He fondly remembers their first meeting amidst the chaos of dungeon subjugations and Renee's rise in status. He inquires about her right eye, showing genuine concern and feeling relieved she hasn't mentioned resigning. Renee, touched by his remembrance of her injury, expresses her joy at having been able to protect him all these years. But then Lord Swallow catches on to her phrasing, was happy, and panics, interpreting it as a farewell. As Renee moves closer to him, his anxiety peaks, and he internally begs her not to resign. In this heightened state of worry, Renee softly confesses her feelings for him. The simplicity and sincerity of her confession catch Lord Swallow completely off guard, leaving him stunned and questioning her words. unable to process the unexpected turn of events. Renee reaffirms her feelings for Lord Swallow, revealing that she has harbored affection for him over the past 8 years. Swallow, overwhelmed by her declaration and the weight of their precarious existence on the edge of life and death, rises, his tail wagging nervously. He acknowledges her feelings but reminds her of the constant danger they face, hinting at the potential pain of loss and solitude that could follow from such a bond. Renee, visibly shaken by Swallow's response, admits she had feared this outcome but felt compelled to confess her feelings, unable to bear the burden of silence any longer. The thought of rejection terrifies her, driving her to a desperate act. She presents a heart-shaped gem that she got from the guild master of the magic tower as her solution to ensure Swallow's love. However, as she approaches him with the jewel, Swallow reacts with caution, asking her to calm down. As Renee explains the jewel's purpose, Swallow, recognizing the mana imbued in it, grows increasingly angry, suspecting malicious intent. Transforming into a shadow demonic figure, Swallow confronts Renee, accusing her of attempting to harm him. In fear, Renee drops the jewel, which shatters on the ground, releasing a terrifying curse. In the present, Patrick praises Lord Swallow, reaffirming his loyalty and admiration for him. Playfully teasing Swallow about his success in driving away the humans, Patrick highlights the respect and camaraderie that exists between them. However, Patrick, the skeleton warrior, expresses shock at Lord Swallow's uncharacteristic behavior, sarcastically questioning Swallow's conscience for driving Renee away and chastising him for biased actions. Patrick is astounded that even Renee, usually spared from Swallow's wrath, wasn't exempt this time. Lord Swallow, still in his demonic form, dismissively responds to Patrick's clanking teeth, seeking guidance on how to resolve the situation. Patrick points out that Swallow is responsible for the predicament. Examining the shattered pieces of the red ruby gem Renee brought, Patrick reflects that while not all the blame lies with Swallow, he did play a significant role in the current chaos. He smashes the gem in his skeletal hand, confronting Swallow about his part in the incident. Swallow, confused and anxious, denies remembering anything, leading Patrick to offer to help him recall the events. Flashback to the moment of Swallow's rage. Patrick intervenes to prevent Swallow from harming Renee. Swallow, engulfed in fury and about to attack, is grabbed by Patrick, who attempts to calm him down. Observing Swallow's chaotic half-human, half-monster form, Patrick realizes the severity of the situation. Turning to Renee, Patrick finds her in despair and confused about the consequences of her actions with the ruby. He urges her to leave, but she's too distraught to comprehend. Recognizing she's a hindrance in her current state, Patrick reluctantly decides to use force. Drawing his sword, he propels Renee away, inflicting significant damage and rendering her unconscious. This drastic measure reflects the urgency and danger of the situation, with Patrick acting to protect both Renee and Swallow from further harm. He manages to create some distance by launching Renee away, then turns to confront the frenzied and chaotic Lord Swallow. Swallow, overwhelmed by his demonic transformation and confused, questions if Patrick is also trying to kill him. Flashback reveals the intense, chaotic events that transpired, leading to Swallow's current state of remorse and confusion. In the present, as Patrick recounts the story, Swallow cringes at the memory. Patrick questions if Swallow truly doesn't remember the incident, to which Swallow, burying his face in his hands, admits his guilt and confusion. Patrick, understanding Swallow's reaction, acknowledges the difficulty of the situation. Glancing at the broken ruby that sparked the chaos, they discuss the necessity of finding Renee, with Patrick emphasizing her crucial role in the dungeon's operation. Renee's responsibilities are extensive, ranging from managing the diet of monsters and Swallow, handling financial records, to overall management. Patrick stresses that losing her would be a greater loss to the dungeon than Swallow himself. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Swallow acknowledges his inadequacy and the shock of hearing the extent of Renee's contribution. Patrick urges him to find Renee, advising him to humble himself, apologize, and persuade her to return. Swallow starts to revert from his polymorph state, accepting Patrick's advice. Patrick emphasizes the urgency and importance of the matter, even suggesting Swallow go as far as to kiss Renee's shoes to win her back. Swallow, understanding the seriousness, agrees to take action to rectify the situation and bring Renee back to the dungeon. As Swallow prepares to leave in search of Renee, Patrick hands him an item called Dura, a bracelet designed to stabilize mana. The bracelet, adorned with a green emerald, catches Swallow's attention. Patrick explains its significance, noting that it's an expensive item and may not be entirely effective on Swallow due to his strong mana reflux and unusual number of fingers. Patrick emphasizes that the Dura might help prevent severe fluctuations in Swallow's polymorph state. Intrigued by the level of preparation, Swallow half-jokingly questions whether Patrick foresaw the incident. He learns that Patrick found the Dura on the floor and is reminded to handle it carefully due to its fragility. Swallow dons the bracelet, promising Patrick to take care of it and to manage the dungeon in his absence. Patrick, however, clarifies that Swallow isn't merely going for a stroll but must return within 5 days. Anticipating the human return, Patrick stresses the importance of Swallow's timely return, as he alone might not be able to fend off intruders while Swallow is away. He assures Swallow that the dungeon can be secured for at least 5 days. Swallow acknowledges this time frame and magically dons a human-like cloak with a hood, intending to blend in with humans if necessary. Patrick advises Swallow to avoid drawing attention if he ventures near a human village, as it could be problematic if a dungeon monster is spotted there. Swallow jokingly suggests causing chaos if things would not go right, but Patrick, focused on the seriousness of the situation, urges him to stop trying to act cool and to focus on the task at hand, finding and returning with Renee within the 5-day window. Patrick reflects on the escalating complexity of their situation. The revelation that Renee had unwittingly acquired a manstone containing a curse, which nearly led to her death at the hands of a berserk Lord Swallow, weighs heavily on him. He notices a flyer announcing the auction of the 34th of the 36 virtuous masterpieces, the beheading Fang. Patrick worries about the potential consequences if Lord Swallow learns of this auction. He envisions a catastrophic scenario where Swallow, in a fit of rage, could unleash an apocalypse, devouring humans and causing widespread chaos. As Patrick processes these thoughts, he stumbles upon another critical piece of information. The Dungeon Subjugation Coalition's plan to raid the core of the Ancients has been accelerated. Initially advising Swallow to return within 5 days, confident he could ensure the dungeon's safety during that period, the new flyer indicates the raid is now scheduled to occur in just 3 days. This unexpected change in the raid's timing leaves Patrick alarmed, realizing the potential danger it poses, especially with Swallow out and unaware of the revised schedule. Meanwhile, Lord Swallow is found in a desolate state, lying in a crater, seemingly oblivious to the urgent developments unfolding around him. The scene underscores the gravity of their predicament, highlighting the potential for disaster if Swallow doesn't return in time to confront the impending human invasion of their dungeon. Reclining and gazing skyward, Swallow finds himself in a huge crater, lamenting his accidental teleportation for the second time. He recalls his skeleton knight's warning about the chaotic nature of his mana and advises against using magic. Observing the magic seeping from his hand, he ponders if it's the cause of his teleportation mishaps, yet decides to give it another try. Lazily placing his hand on the ground, Swallow focuses on the location where Renee went to sell mana stones, channeling an intense surge of dark mana. His body begins to levitate, surrounded by a dark aura, and he swiftly vanishes. In a dramatic shift, the scene introduces a regal demonic queen with purple hair, horns, and wings perched on her throne. She addresses a human warrior who has managed to reach her, promising them a magnificent demise. The human warrior boldly steps forward, challenging the queen's arrogance. Brandishing his sword, he declares that his group, the Season Dawn Tiger Mercenary Party, is the 32nd rank subjugation party in the Empire. His fellow warriors, equipped with a crossbow and a staff, confront the queen, vowing to unseat her and spread their fame across the continent. The queen, unimpressed, dismisses them as trivial, foolish beings. Rising from her throne, she reveals her lineage as the 17th descendant of the Demon King, Asmodeus. Emitting an intense dark energy, her wings radiate a fearsome pinkish-green aura. She introduces herself as Malevolent and declares their doom for having the honor of hearing her name. The mercenary leader, smirking confidently, accepts her challenge, ready to confront the powerful demonic queen head-on in a momentous battle. The mercenary leader, filled with determination, confronts the demon queen head-on, boldly declaring, "Give them right back to you, Demon King." The queen, Unfazed, deftly wields her staff, spinning it skillfully as she prepares for battle. She effortlessly deflects the incoming arrows, leaving the mercenaries astonished that she could block such a powerful assault. The group's mage urges the others to provide support, preparing to launch a fiery attack. The Demon Queen, disdainful of the humans, proclaims their insignificance and summons a wave of demonic flames, and she aimed a demonic flame at his party members, providing cover with long-range attacks from behind, hitting them, and then redirected it towards the mercenary leader. In response, the mercenary leader acts swiftly, stabbing his sword into the ground and raising a barrier of debris to shield himself from the flames at the last moment. Sensing the air growing colder, he turns to find ice shards. Looking up, he realizes the queen has already cast another spell, amassing a large cluster of ice above him ready to strike. Reacting quickly, the mercenary leader grabs a handful of rocks and hurls one at the queen to disrupt her balance. Seizing the moment, he leaps towards her to mount an offensive. The queen, however, counters by launching a bar of ice shards at him, but a protective barrier forms around mercenary leader, shielding him from the onslaught. The queen, surprised, wonders who activated the barrier, having believed the party's mage to be incapacitated. In a moment of realization, she discovers that the mage and archer, though gravely wounded, are still alive. The mage, using his last reserves of magic, conjured a barrier to protect. The demon queen mustered her magical strength and lunged towards the mercenary leader. The leader, equally determined, charged towards her. At that instant, the ceiling of the demon castle shattered, causing someone to plummet to the floor, sending both combatants flying backward. Dazed by the unexpected interference, the leader bled from his mouth, and the demon queen was equally astonished, suspecting an unknown presence had intervened. A fellow mercenary rushed to check on their leader, who reassured them of his well-being. Curiosity arose among the group about the identity of this mysterious new arrival, as they hadn't anticipated any other subjugation parties in the area. Meanwhile, the demon queen, regaining her composure, speculated about the potential increase in the subjugation party's strength. She pondered the implications of another powerful entity capable of breaching the Demon King's castle, indicating the situation might be more dire than anticipated. Amidst the clearing smoke, a figure emerged. This unexpected arrival nonchalantly inquired about the location of Harston, revealing himself to be none other than Swallow, the main character who had unwittingly stumbled into the midst of the ongoing conflict, puzzling both the mercenaries and the Demon Queen. The Demon Queen and the mercenary leader simultaneously asked, "What the hell did he barge in here to say?" The mercenary leader conveyed, "Their appearance seems human enough, but you better stay away from that Demon King." Swallow, hearing about the Demon King, turned around and pondered to himself, "That demon is a Demon King? The vibes. Totally different from the other Demon Kings I've run into." Meanwhile, the Demon Queen declared, "Send however many trifling humans you want. It'll never be enough to take down someone like me. Lowly scum. You will pay in spades for damaging my castle." One of the party members informed, "Leader, the support squad has arrived." The mercenary leader eagerly responded, "Great. Let's take down that Demon King together." However, Swallow interjected, "No, hang on, you guys. First, tell me what I asked for." Ignoring him, they continued their fight with the Demon Queen. Swallow, sitting down for a moment, thought, "I'm seriously fed up. I have to find Renee quickly, and now it looks like this lot will be impossible to talk to any later than this, and Patrick will chew me out. Just thinking about it is a pain." The mercenary group approached Swallow, and one member stated, "Get a move on and help us." Another person said, "That guy's probably scared stiff." Swallow retorted, "Shut up," as he transformed into his demonic form, causing the mercenary group to attempt to run away, but he consumed them all. The Demon Queen became frightened when she saw what the person had just done. Curious about him, she inquired, "What exactly did you just do? It was truly astonishing and powerful. With what I just saw, you may even be more powerful than me, my lord." With a sparkle in her eye, she asked, "My esteemed self is now very interested in you. I want to know more about you. What is your true identity, my lord? What about your name? What's the secret to your strength?" Swallow, flustered by her persistent questioning, upon noticing Swallow, the Demon Queen also grew nervous. She said, "Pardon my manners. Allow me to introduce myself. I am a great, well-renowned Demon King, the 17th descendant of Asmodeus, Mels de Agria." she then asked. Now then, what's your name? Swallow thought to himself. I hate all of this, but if it is for the sake of intel. He remembered what Patrick had warned him earlier, thinking, if I reveal my identity, wouldn't news of it spread everywhere? Patrick warned me not to let that happen. Besides, there's no need to reveal it now. Swallow then said, I'm Swaldo Rolnir. The Demon Queen, intrigued, asked, Swaldo Rolnir, can I call you Lord Swaldo? Swallow replied, if you want. The Demon Queen expressed her gratitude, saying, okay then, Lord Swaldo, first of all, heartfelt thanks for coming to my rescue, though it was rather overkill. Before she could continue, Swallow interrupted, saying, say less. The Demon Queen insisted, no, if it wasn't for your help, my lord, it's shameful to admit, but they may have landed a single attack on me. You did save me, but it's not like I needed saving. Since you helped me out, Lord Swaldo, I want to be of help too. Anything you want from me? Swallow exclaimed. Indeed, are you familiar with the route to Harston? The Demon Queen responded. Harston, you say? Swallow pondered. Good, she's aware. Opting to spare her instead of the humans was the right decision. Just a bit more patience, Renee. The Demon Queen inquired. So, what exactly is Harston? Swallow, surprised by her question, thought, Harston? Could it be she not only lacks directions but also doesn't grasp what Harston is? Did I unintentionally inquire with the one person unfamiliar with the concept? Swallow asked. All right then, where's the nearest human settlement from here? The Demon Queen replied, a human village? To my knowledge, Liège is the closest city. Swallow thought, Liège? The imperial capital Liège? Doesn't it take 2 months to travel from Harston to Liège in a human carriage? Swallow, rolling on the ground, exclaimed, way off the mark. The Demon Queen questioned, what happened, Lord Swaldo? Overshot, you say? It seems you wish to travel a great distance. How about utilizing the teleportation hub? Swallow asked. What's a hub? The Demon Queen inquired. You're not aware? It's a human invention involving magic and alchemy. Supposedly, this device possesses technology that forcibly transports individuals through space. Swallow questioned, where can this be found? The Demon Queen replied, the teleportation hub is located in Liège. After a short time in Liège, Swallow inquired whether this city is where we locate the transportation hub. The Demon Queen assured Lord Swallow that Liège was an ideal place for gathering information. While Swallow was doubtful about finding Renee there, he recognized it as a starting point to collect leads, considering he was unsure if Renee had gone to Harston. Upon hearing Swallow's description of Renee as a woman with silver hair, the Demon Queen confidently promised to aid him in his search. Swallow, puzzled by her willingness to help, questioned why she, as the ruler of the Demon King's castle, would leave her domain. The Demon Queen, with a hint of pride, declared that her physical location was irrelevant to her rule. Wherever she stood was her domain, and the demons by her side were her soldiers. This proclamation was accompanied by an aura of powerful malice, showcasing her dominance. Swallow, intrigued, asked if her ability to command demons was a unique power of the Demon King lineage. The Demon Queen boastfully affirmed, though she admitted she had never actually tried it herself. Her confidence, however, remained unshaken, as she believed she could emulate her father's feats. She then casually mentioned that the Demon King's castle, a legacy from her father, was partially destroyed, which explained her current freedom from its confines. Swallow, feeling a bit awkward and responsible, apologized for the damage. The Demon Queen nonchalantly shrugged off the significance of the castle, expressing frustration over the constant chaos caused by humans. As they continued walking down the alleyway, an unlikely partnership formed between them in their joint quest to find Renee. Unbeknownst to Swallow, the Demon Queen's eagerness to assist stemmed from a burgeoning crush on him, adding an underlying personal motive to her newfound alliance with Lord Swallow. At the tavern, amidst the vibrant atmosphere of celebration and chatter, Lord Swallow and the Demon Queen Mel settled down with 2 beers. Swallow observed his brimming mug, contemplating their situation, while Mel savored her drink with evident pleasure, highlighting the refreshment it brought her. Swallow, somewhat perplexed, inquired about their purpose at the tavern given their quest. Mel's, wiping her lips after a satisfying gulp, explained the strategic importance of such places in human villages. Pubs, she noted, were hubs of information where adventurers and locals congregated, sharing news about everything from gossip and monster sightings to equipment and raid strategies. The conversations in these settings were rich sources of unpolished gems of information. She pointed out that the key was in selecting the right conversations to eavesdrop on. As Swallow scanned the room trying to understand what she meant by pick and choose, his attention was drawn to a board full of flyers. Approaching the board, Mel's commented on its significance as a nexus of information. Seemingly surprised by its presence, Swallow examined a flyer, which Mel's identified as a list of subjugation parties currently involved in dungeon activities. She explained that the system was in place to prevent multiple parties from entering a single dungeon simultaneously, as it could lead to conflicts over payment distribution. Swallow, absorbing this new information, realized the practicality of their location. Amused by the sight of humans voluntarily venturing into danger for greed, Mel's mused on their likelihood of success, which she deemed low if they didn't work together. Swallow expressed it better for us. His comment piqued Mel's curiosity, leading her to ask what he meant by us. Swallow began to sweat anxiously. Mel's, with a sharp inquisitive gaze, leaned closer to Swallow, suspecting his demonic nature. She questioned how he, presumably a dungeon demon, could roam freely outside unlike her, the demon lord confined to her castle. This discrepancy struck her as peculiar. Swallow, attempting to dodge the inquiry, claimed the explanation was too complicated and pleaded for her to drop the subject. Mel's, sensing the multitude of secrets he harbored, chose not to probe further, respecting his privacy. However, Swallow's attention was soon drawn to a message board with a flyer about his dungeon. Relieved to see that the subjugation list was empty, he realized there was still time. Mel's, playfully teasing Swallow about his height, demanded to see the flyer for herself. Swallow, finding her antics somewhat annoying, complied and handed it over. Mel's excitement was evident as she read about the raid advertisement for the 7 malevolent dungeon cores of the ancients. Swallow, surprised, asked if she knew about this dungeon. She replied that of course she does. Then told him that it has every dungeon's strengths in one, and even the foolish humans can't help but admire its power. He told her to wait, and asked her if she was allowed to take it. She sat down happily, shouting that it was what every demon strives for, and told him that among the 7 malevolent dungeons, the core of the ancient is the strongest of them all, and its ruler, Lord of Creation, God's guardian who punished those consumed by fear, is the zenith of all core monsters, none other than Lord Swallow, making him wonder if isn't he closer to a landlord than a ruler, one that is always struggling with evil residents. She also told him that her favorite dungeon is the core of the ancient, and she wants to be stronger because if she gets stronger, she'll be able to meet Swallow in the future, making him sweat hard knowing that she was meeting him right now. She asked him if isn't it wonderful because it was unapproachable strength, and told him that she wants to be like it. She also told him that, of course, her father was strong as well, and he was a true demon king fit for the throne, unlike her. And it was just that there are humans, stronger than her father, and they are a fairly young hero named Burn or something. He asked her if Burn is the hero who defeated the Demon King and told her that he really doesn't want to go near Burn, thinking that he was the one who swallowed that hero with a yawn. She told him that she doesn't want to spend her life managing dungeons like her father because she just wants to enable her demons to make their dungeons, which is why she is going to get stronger, and asked him if isn't it wonderful. He smiled, thinking that it was nice to be young, and that it was. He remembered that he was like it once long ago, further back than he can even remember. There was a time when he, full of vigor, led armies powerful enough to rule the world, and he tried to master all the world's knowledge and was more serious about it than anyone else. He associated with humans that he saw as pathetic and got emotional with them. There was once a time when he devoted everything to them, but at the end of that path, he realized it was all in vain. So now his life goal is to sleep all day. While he was firmly decided on his new goal, Mel's had succumbed to the effects of alcohol and fallen asleep at the table, snoring loudly. Swallow, taken aback, questioned whether she was genuinely asleep amidst the bustling tavern. His inquiries went unanswered as Mel's continued to sleep soundly. A moment later, he heard a man asking his friend if that was another subjugation request, and the man's friend replied yes. It came in yesterday, but he forgot to put it up. The man asked his friend how could he put yesterday's stuff up now, and the other men asked which dungeon it is. While Swallow was holding Mel's and busy asking the waiter where the rooms were, the man's friend put the paper on the board, telling everyone to just wait because he was putting it up now, and they should see it for themselves. The man teasingly asked his friend if he never changed it, and told him he'll get fined if the Empire's inspectors catch him. But the man's friend replied that he is changing it now. Then they all saw that the quest's rank was the 7 Malevolent Dungeons core of the Ancient, and it was an underground limestone cave within Grapenea Forest near Harston, west of the Empire. The quest warned that only those who have been recognized for their ability to subjugate an official Imperial S rank or equivalent dungeon are allowed to enter. Also, they should be warned that it contains malevolent levels of danger. Then, it showed that the participating subjugation party was the Fimore Subjugation Party of Fimore du Belli with 31 members, under subjugation party leader Nifrim, and its subjugation expiry date was within 72 hours of the date issued. The next day, in some room, Mel's woke up with a headache and sat up, saying her head hurt. Yawning, only he asked her if she was awake, and she told him that she didn't have any memories. He told her that he guessed so, but he slammed into the ground in shock, making her ask him why he was so surprised. He just asked himself if his eyes were going bad and inquired why she looked like a little kid. She was shocked and stuttering, shouted that she was not a little kid. He asked her if it was rejuvenation, but she just continuously punched him while shouting, asking him if he thought it was too impolite. He asked her who told her to suddenly become so young and told her that he was surprised and it hurt. She still continuously punched him while replying that she didn't become younger. He covered his face and told her to stop already. Then she explained to him that her appearance yesterday was her version 2 so that the lowly humans do not look down on her, and her current appearance is version 1. He told her that what she was saying was that her real appearance isn't the one from yesterday but the current one in front of him. She replied yes and asked him why his face was like that and if he ate a midnight snack without telling her, making him just look at her in disbelief. She shouting told him that transformation magic is originally magic that projects the user's future appearance. So in other words, when she grows up, she will look like her splendid version 2 self, which he replied okay. Shouting only asked him if he understood. He replied okay. But she still told him that there was no heart in his response. He told her that it seems they'll need new clothes first. She told him not to keep treating her like a kid, to which he replied all right, but she still told him that she wouldn't forgive him for it. The scene then transitions to the Harston earldom household, where a significant development was unfolding. A subjugation party from Liège, led by Nifrim, arrived at the gates, announcing their mission to suppress the core of the Ancients. On the other hand, inside the mansion, someone asked who sent those official papers, and the butler replied that it was sent just yesterday under the name of the Third Eye. Lord of Harston, Earl Itark cursed, knowing that the Third Eyes are a damned association under direct imperial control and for dungeons B rank and above, one must first gain permission from the Lord of the territory before entering. But he decided to never mind the permission, and wondered if it wasn't a notice. Earl Itark also thinks since it was a command from the imperial family, he can't kick them out. Earl Itark asked his butler if she thinks that the subjugation party can completely suppress the core of the Ancient, and the butler shook her head to respond no. Earl Itark told his butler that he thinks so too, and for a subjugation party aiming for the core of the Ancient, it was far too weak. Also, as for the subjugation party leader, Nifrim, he has never heard of them before, and he asked what on earth those bastards from the Third Eye are thinking. Then he asked himself, won't his territory be the one having a crisis if they touch the core of the Ancient half-heartedly, and wouldn't it be better for him to ask a stronger subjugation party to raid the core of the Ancient? But he knows that if he does it, he needs a trustworthy subjugation party. His butler told him that he might find the answer closer than he thinks, making him realize that his butler was talking about the magic tower wing. He thought if it was the wing, then it was completely possible. Then Earl Itark remembered that he heard. Even with the rapid growth, an A-rank magic tower attempting to suppress the core of the Ancient is insane. But if the rumors he has heard are true, then he had a chance, making him smile. Earl Itark also knows that the only monster left on the right trail where even the Guardian has been defeated is the boss monster who confronted the hero Byrne's subjugation party, Swallow. Then Earl Itark ordered his butler to send someone to the magic tower wing with a request right away, and in his name, he would promise a large sum and fame. She should tell them to first suppress the core of the Ancient however possible. Suddenly, someone shouted that they couldn't go in there, but then at Erlitarch's office barged open, making him panicky. He asked who it was. Nifrim asked him if he was Lord Erlitarch, but he just asked Nifrim back who he was. He replied that his name is Nifrim and told Erlitarch that since he didn't open the gates, no matter how much they called, they let themselves in. Erlitarch asked Nifrim why he was there without any previous notification, and he sat down while asking Erlitarch if he didn't get the official papers from the imperial family, and if there is a reason they can't come. Erlitarch, shivering, replied no while feeling the bloodthirst from Nifrim. The lady asked Erlitarch if she is right that they are guests, and what is with his face, then told Erlitarch to smile, and that she wants to eat something sweet, so he should give her some tea, snacks and chocolates. Erlitarch clenched his hand in anger but then ordered his butler to hurry and prepare them. A moment later, Erlitarch asked Nifrim why he came looking for him, and he replied that they had come to crush the core of the ancient. Erlitarch told him that it had only been a day since the official papers had arrived, so he was quite fast, and asked him when he was going. He replied that they were actually planning on going today, but something just came up, so he thinks they'll go tomorrow, and asked Erlitarch if it was okay. Erlitarch asked him if tomorrow wasn't too soon and if it wouldn't be better to go after fully recovering since it was an important task, then told him that he will provide shelter and amenities, so they should enjoy to their heart's content. But he tells Erlitarch that it is all right even if he isn't so concerned about them, and they will just visit the magic tower wing and head off immediately. Erlitarch worriedly asked him why he was going to the wing and if he had an acquaintance there, but he replied that it was not for such a courteous reason because he would go there to just kill them all. Erlitarch stuttering asks him what he means, and he replies that for an earldom's security to be so flimsy, eavesdropping with magic was too easy, so he heard it all on their way there. Then he asks Erlitarch if he is going to entrust the subjugation to the magic tower, and if he thinks they would obediently give up when they also came to that border for subjugation, so he thinks they should get rid of everyone who'd be a disturbance. He also tells Erlitarch that it was quite beneficial for him since between them and Wing, the stronger party would go to subjugate the core of the ancient. Erlitarch apologized to him for his lapse, and told him that he would not request any other group, so he should start the raid whenever he wished. He grabbed one of the cookies while asking Erlitarch if it was so and bit on it while telling Earl that he was beside himself seeing the Erlitarch favor. Meanwhile, in the core of the ancient boss dungeon, the stones formed as humans stood still. Then Patrick slashed their heads easily, and he knows that it's almost time for their arrival. Meanwhile, in Liaise, Swallow and Melz are walking in the street. Then he saw something and thought that it seemed familiar to him. Melz tells him that it must be there. He tells the guard that he wants to go to the teleportation hub, and the guard informs him that if he means the hub, then he has still got a long way to go. He asks the guard what he means by a long way, and the guard explains to him that the thing in front of them is the entrance, and the hub is located in a castle right outside the Imperial Palace. So they'll have to go a while longer, and they'll have to go through 3 more castle walls. He asks the guard if it will take long, and the guard replies that if he wants to walk then maybe it'll take at least a week. They are both shocked to hear it, making the guard confusedly ask them if there is a problem. He knows that it is too late, and at that rate, he should forget finding Renee because Patrick will run away from home. She whisperingly offers him using flying magic, but he replies that they can't, and if they keep letting out mana, they'll get found out by humans. He knows that if he lets out his mana, he didn't know what will happen. Suddenly, someone tells them that they look to be in some trouble. Then the old man apologizes to them for unintentionally eavesdropping and asks them if they are looking to go to the hub by any chance. Melz replied that it was right and asked the old man who he was. The old man replied that he was the flying coachman, Belver. She asked Belver what he meant by flying coachman, and he pointed to something with wings on the side, then introduced to them that it was an abandoned 4th-generation homunculus, and it was the result of an artificial angel manufacturing plan carried out by the Empire. He replied that he understood while Melz thinks it looked disgusting. Belver explained to them that it was strong, followed orders well, and could fly, but it was abandoned because it couldn't bring about the collapse of the church, which is its original purpose. She asks Belver if the human's homunculus experimentation is over, and Belver replies that there is no way the Empire would give up the kind of power, and there is still a strange story about homunculi being mass-produced somewhere through a large-scale process. He asks Belver if aren't they usually incubated in giant flasks, but Belver replied that it was from ages ago, and it was for the 1st-generation homunculus incubation done 150 years ago, making him wonder if it has already been that long since Renee was born. Melz goes on the carriage while telling them that it looks durable enough, She doesn't think Belver is lying and asks how long will it be until they reach the hub if they take it. Belver replied that the flight would take 3 hours, and the inspection would take 1, so about 4 hours in total because even if they fly, inspection at each castle wall is essential. He asked Belver how much it was and Belver replied that for the two of them, it's 8 ounces of gold, making them shocked. Knowing that 8 ounces of gold is 800 ounces of silver, the cost of staying at the tavern was 8 ounces of silver, so it was 100 times more expensive than yesterday's accommodation fee. Mel's apologizes to him because she doesn't have that much money, and he asks her if he looks like he does. But then he hears something clicking in his pocket, grabs it out, and sees that it is paper. Then in the letter, Patrick calls him their clumsy boss, and tells him that there'll come a day when he'll be thankful for him. Then he sees that with the letter, gold coins are inside. A moment later, they are inside the flying homunculus. When Mel's calls him, making him ask her what it is, she asks him who gave him that much money, and he, yawning only, replies that an associate from the dungeon who seemed to have secretly given it to him. She tells him that now she is thinking about it, and asks him if isn't he a monster from a dungeon, and how is he able to go around so freely. He asks her if saying he got kicked out is a suitable response, making her ask him if the associate he was looking for is someone who also got kicked out, and he replied that it was something like it. She tells him that she is jealous because even after leaving the dungeon he cares for his associate right to the end, and she wants a colleague like that as well. Also, she wants to live a life like him. A life where he has someone to take care of him, and he takes care of them. But he just asks her if it is so. Later, in the Street of Gold and Pleasure Survey Rose, he asked the man if he was telling him that they couldn't use the teleportation hub now. The man replied yes and apologized to him for the inconvenience. Mel's tells him that she didn't think it would happen and that she was ashamed. The man tells them that if it was not urgent, they should come back at around 8 p.m. today because the hub had been shut down today to ensure the security of today's auction. After the auction was over, VIPs would use the hub, so the higher-ups will allow it if they are interested. They should take the paper. He asked the man if he said they were closing the hub because of the one auction, and the man replied yes. Then explained to him that it was because quite a rare item was exhibited this time, and the beheading Fang that had an unknown whereabouts for a long time was suddenly put on display a few days ago. So they closed the hub for an hour to prevent infiltration into the auction house by abusing the hub. She replied that she understood and told the man that it was a really well-made drawing while he was busy looking at the beheading Fang picture, thinking that he had seen it before somewhere. Then he remembered that it was the same as what his associate used. The man asked him if he was sure he was not mistaken, and he replied that it was exactly the same. Then he asked the man if isn't the thing where if they grip it tightly it flies and transforms into a large blade. The man replied that he was not sure about it, but he thought he must be mistaken since only one beheading Fang exists in the world. He was shocked to hear that it was the only one that existed in the world, making him think that it was definitely Renee's weapon. But he wondered why it was in the hands of humans and thinks that it couldn't be. He thinks even the bosses of the other 7 malevolent dungeons can't mess with Renee easily, so there is no way mere humans would be able to face her because Renee is strong and she is called Blade Maid Renee for nothing. He slowly changed to his original form while wondering if Renee was holding a blade when she left, and remembers that Renee was wearing frilly clothes that didn't even have pockets to hide weapons. She threw a blade at him since she mistook him for an enemy, making him wonder how many weapons did Renee have left, if Renee ever fought with less than 5 weapons if she fought with humans. He knows that Patrick's strong without a sword, and it is just that with a sword, Patrick is even stronger. But Renee is different because if they take the blades from the Blade Maid, nothing will be left of her. Mel's called him in fear while he was transforming back to his original form, but he didn't hear her because he was busy furiously wondering if Renee got killed by mere humans. Then he thinks if Renee was killed by a mere human, then it would be right for him to kill the very last bastard there. Then he asked Renee if she wouldn't agree while Mel shouted for him to calm down. She grabbed his arm while shouting for him to snap out of it, and asked him what in the world happened. He seriously tells her that he will only ask her once and asks her if there is only one beheading Fang, one of the 36 virtuous masterpieces, there in the world. She sweating replied that according to the principles she knew of, it was the only one, and asked him why he asked all of a sudden. He replied that he had been looking for it, and it belonged to his friend, so he had to find it. Then he takes his arm back while telling her that she doesn't need to help him anymore, and as short as it was, he thanked her. Then he tells her that he knows the way back to Harston now, and he can make his own way there from there on out, so it would be best if she got out of there as fast as possible. She shouting calls his name and asks him if that person, the friend he was referring to, is the demon that takes the form of a silver-haired woman and a warrior who wields the beheading fang of the 36 virtuous masterpieces, the Blade Maiden Lady Renee. She shakingly tells him that based on his reaction, it seemed she was correct, but he just tells her that it was enough with the provocations and asks her how much she wants to know. She tried to laugh while shivering in fear and telling him that there was no need to tell her the whole story, and even if he used that vicious voice of his, he could not scare her, especially since she had already figured out who he was. She also tells him that Renee is the guardian that protects the great core of the ancient, and she is the highest of the highest, so if he claims that Renee is his friend, then he must be the master of the core of the ancient, the great Lord Swallow, making him surprised, and his anger disappeared. He admitted that he was Swallow, and she proudly told him that she was sure of it. He sighed, but the truth is he felt disgusted. She laughingly tells him to look at his face, and she caught him red-handed, but he shouldn't worry because her deduction skills were supreme. She shyly continued by telling him that she knew what kind of dangerous thoughts were crossing in his mind at that very moment, so she would help him, and he would not object. He asks her if she is sure she can go off of such simple reasoning when he is someone who claims to be nearly on the level of the Demon King. She replied that it was not the logical demon who became king but the Demon King who dictates logic, making him sigh thinking that it was taking a bit too far. Then she called him Swall that she knew and told him that he was super and duper scary just now. There were all those weird things shooting out of his back, but she was glad he was back to his normal self and told him that she shall assist him from now on so he shouldn't worry. She also tells him to promise her never to use that voice to say such things ever again. Later on the day of the auction, at the front entrance, the nobles arrived. On the other hand, at the same moment, at the back entrance, the guard expected it but he didn't see a single soul, making the guard ask himself what was the point in guarding a place like it. Suddenly someone said hello to the guard, and Mel's in her version 2 tells the guard that they were looking to join the auction and asked if they could come through that entrance. The guard, stuttering, replied that they could right away, but first, he'd have to ask them to identify themselves and ask them what their names are. She replied that she was Mel's of House Agria, and the man behind her, her attendant Swallow. The guard tells them to wait a moment and check on the list, but then the guard apologized to her because she was not on the guest list for today. She replied that it was strange and asked Swallow if he, by chance, happened to have the invitation on him. The guard confusedly asked them what invitation, and he walked closer to the guard while saying that he had it there. But the guard tells them that there were no invitations sent out. Suddenly, he punched the guard in the face and told the guard that it was his invitation to the afterlife. Then he asked her if she couldn't wear something different, but she just asked him back why and if he was afraid he'd be charmed by her fabulous self. He tells her that she was a kid, so she should dress like one, making her pissed and shouting, telling him not to call her a kid. He tells her okay, and they should get going, but she still shouting tells him to take it back right that instant. Meanwhile in Chait Castle, Renee was lying on the bed, thinking that she could no longer return to the core of the ancient. The setting transitioned to 80 years ago depicting the Grapenia forest ablaze. Swallow expressed remorse for the incident, apologizing to Grapenias and expressing disbelief that humans would commit such a bold act. Swallow wondered if the forest would recover quickly and if the forest's joy would return since they had returned the favor to the humans. As the owner of Grapenia Forest, Earth's spirit, Grapenia sat on the ground in anger with the head of the human leader who started the fire. Swallow think about the ancient core using the forest as a natural fortress and the need to make a good impression on Grapenias. He questioned if all the humans who started the fire were dead and speculated that Grapenia's anger would gradually subside. Swallow found himself intrigued by the situation, wondering if the creature called the homunculus, a non-human created by a human, should be killed to eliminate any witnesses. He then informed the homunculus that her master's final words were that she were free to leave if she wanted. However, he clarified that he would not assist in her escape, leaving the decision of dying trapped in the forest or outside to the homunculus, named Lelo. Swallow mentioned that Lelo's master had been searching for a maid named Lelo, and since there were no other maids present, it must be her. His curiosity-driven mercy ended at that point. Lelo was the name of a maid who served the head of her household, and a title used to address the most talented maid. The current Lelo was a middle-aged head maid, and this homunculus had never been called nor addressed by that name, because objects like her didn't have names. However, because of that, she was experiencing something like that, and she said Lelo. Back to present at Chait Castle, Rene was sitting on the rock outside thinking about his past memories. His thoughts were interrupted as Ursabet said, "Rene, I heard the subjugation party sent by the Empire is heading towards the core of the Ancient." Rene replied, "Even if Ursabet says that, she won't go back to the core of the Ancient." Ursabet said, "I'm not telling you to go back. I value Rene's happiness, but I prioritize choice and freedom more. Shouldn't you make sure you settle all your problems? If it's those two, they'll look for you everywhere. If they find out you were tricked by a human and ended up like this, what do you think Swallow and even Patrick will do afterward? If you're going to keep living in the shadows, erase all your tracks forever? It doesn't have to be perfect. Even if it's clumsy, Patrick will know your intentions and take care of it. Because of the subjugation party, the core of the Ancient will be busy with cleanup for a few days. If you plan to tie the knot, it has to be now." As Renee contemplated her next move, she turned to Ursabet and informed her that she was planning on going somewhere far away to get some fresh air. Ursabet expressed concern, noticing that Renee's right eye seemed to be getting blurry, and asked if it was okay for her to go alone. Renee reassured her, saying that she was fine and thanked Ursabet for her concern. She then inquired about the whereabouts of her blade. The scene then shifted to an auction house, where Swallow confronted Guard and asked them to divulge everything he knew about the beheading Fong. The guard, feeling pressured, revealed that it was submitted by the Magic Tower of Harston, specifically the wing. He pleaded ignorance regarding any further information and begged Swallow to believe him. Swallow think that it was indeed Harston, and confirmed with the guard that he had mentioned the Magic Tower of Harston's wing. Thanking the guard for telling the truth, he decided to spare his life. As Swallow and Melz began to leave, the guard whispered to himself, expressing frustration and anger at the situation. He questioned why he, a mere guard, had almost lost his life and cursed those responsible. Suddenly, Swallow appeared behind him, stating that he had done nothing wrong, startling the guard. Swallow clarified that the guard had indeed done nothing wrong, but had unfortunately caught his attention. He questioned the guard about the terms used when stepping into his territory, mentioning words like massacre or slaughter. Swallow pointed out that they often use fancy words like raid or subjugation, and questioned if the guard had ever felt sorry for the monsters he killed. He asked if the monsters had done anything wrong to deserve being killed. He then declared that the guard was just his enemy, which was why he was taking action. In the auction room, the auctioneer declared, "Someone has bids 35 billion ounces of gold." Following suit, participants chimed in with bids of 38.4 billion, 39.8 billion, 50 billion, 60 billion, and 70 billion. Afterward, the auctioneer proclaimed, "We have 70 billion on the table. Is there anyone else?" and repeated the inquiry. The girl with blue hair named Win Historia, an executive hero of the Black Tiger's Order, said, "I'm bored. Should we join the bidding too? We can do it just for fun and fool around a bit." The girl with red hair named Garrett, an executive tracker of the Black Tiger's Order, asked, "What? Get a grip, Ms. Win. We're here for auction security, not to participate." Win replied, "Yeah, she can't seem to joke around with her." Garrett reminded her, "You shouldn't forget our purpose. Anyway, let's finish this up and go get something delicious to eat," Win suggested. "Maybe a salmon sandwich or a pumpkin tart. I also want some pudding." The auctioneer inquired, "Does no one else wish to bid? I will make the third call and conclude this auction." In that instant, Swallow emerged on the stage questioning, "By whose permission?" Employing demonic power, he swiftly dispatched the auctioneer, declaring himself as the one to conclude the auction. Witnessing Swallow's formidable abilities, both Win and Garrett were paralyzed with fear. Simultaneously, Swallow addressed the gathering, asking, "Are all of you here to buy the beheading fawn?" In the Empire, there were 3 warriors known as the Warriors of the Empire. However, when one of them, Bern Hishtaltz, died while attacking a dungeon out of personal interest, public criticism arose. People questioned how a warrior, whose duty was to protect the Empire, could die in such a manner. Unable to blame the late Bern, the finger of blame was pointed towards the remaining 2 warriors. One of the 2 warriors believed that it was essential to instill trust in the people of the Empire. They wanted to suppress their survival instincts and ignite their fighting spirit. However, as Wun prepared to rush forward and attack, she was stopped by Garrett. Fear filled her eyes as she looked at Swallow and pleaded, "You can't go. Absolutely not. That thing is far too dangerous." With a sigh, Swallow responded, "It was just a hunch, but it's actually real. I can feel Renee's traces emanating too strongly to call it a fake." As expected, Renee was done in by those human bastards, he continued. "Though the situation is too complicated to explain in detail, this item actually has an owner already. So I'll be returning it back to its original owner." "What a shame. It would have sold for a high price." "Well, since you've gotten to see it." Before he could finish speaking, a person from the crowd interrupted, shouting, "Guards, what are you doing?" "Stop that bastard," Swallow responded. "Right, it looks like you have no intention of sending me off nicely." "It's fine, I feel the same way. I'm going to rip you all to pieces and bury you with this blade." As Swallow said that, Wen rushed forward to attack, saying, "You think I'd allow that?" Swallow looked at her and thought, "That's quite the fast-flying squirrel." He observed her decent movement paired with decent battle gear, but unfortunately noted that she had no talent for it, and no weapons other than those gauntlets. In that case, he decided to grab her hand and smash those gauntlets to pieces. However, he couldn't help but be impressed by her skills for a human. As she rushed again to attack with her crushing blow, he stayed still and tried to grab her gauntlet. Her attack hit Swallow's hand, surprising him with a display of formidable attack strength and causing him to crash into the wall behind him, creating destruction with the impact. "She's a bit fatigued," took a deep breath and stood still, while he laughed and said, "So you weren't just any old kid?" She wondered, "He's still alive? He's not dead? That can't be." That technique destroys most dungeon bosses without even leaving a trace. Even the replica of the Apocalypse, said to easily withstand any 3 blows, was once destroyed by a single blow from that technique. "Black fluid, no gas? So he's not a human. But he's no ordinary monster either." "Just what is he?" he replied. "What? A pity," and attempted to eat her with his demonic power. However, at that moment, Garrett rushed forward and tried to save Wen. She tore the scroll, using scroll magic to teleport her out of harm's way. A little later, Melz asked, "Sir Swallow, are you safe?" "I was worried," Swallow reassured her, saying, "Well, I'm fine." Melz questioned further, "Are you really okay? I thought you died a helpless death." Swallow pondered, "I wonder, I'm still alive." And he thinks that the attack earlier is not something that a human is capable of delivering. If something like that had hit his heart, he might have been so surprised that it could have undone his polymorph. And if his polymorph got undone, then Patrick would have definitely. He doesn't even want to think about it. He'd probably take death over that, but more importantly, he missed them all. There weren't one, but 2 flying squirrels, that redhead especially. While he was distracted by Blue Hair, she evacuated everyone, cast several layers of protection magic on Blue Hair, and escaped the clutches of his magic at the same time. Interesting. As the scene shifted to a little distance from the auction house, where Wen teleported, she fell to the ground. An old person exclaimed, "Something fell over there." A second person reacted, "What on earth is happening?" "Hey, there's someone here," the old person asked. "Are you awake? She's very injured." "Call the guard." "No, the healer." She thought, "Even though I'm a warrior, I was defeated by an unknown monster with a single strike. Are the people in the auction house safe? What about Garrett?" And she said, "Garrett." In reply, Garrett asked, "How can I hear you when you call so softly?" This surprised her, and she said happily, "You're alive, Garrett." Garrett said, "Miss Wen, you should thank me quickly. If I wasn't there, preparations for her funeral would be underway." Then she noticed Garrett's severed arm, and Garrett reassured her, "Don't fuss. It's no danger to my life." She, while crying, said, "Sorry. Because of me, Garrett, I'm a failure as a hero. Garrett, I'm sorry." Her talk was interrupted as Garrett shouted, "Wen Historia, get a hold of yourself. You are a hero." "I'm sure everyone's going to love seeing a hero of the Empire cry their eyes out, yes?" And she whispered, "And if it's just one arm, it's nothing, alright? Do you not know who you were up against, Miss Wen? That monster was the core of the ancient Swallow." In response, Wen asked, What are you talking about? Don't make fun of me. There's no way a monster like that would come here." Garrett replied, "I don't know the reason either, but I'm certain. He really is Swallow. That black calamity is the ancient monster Swallow." On that monster's foot were traces of hero Bern Hishtalt's fresh tracks that looked to be less than a month old. It's more serious than we thought, Miss Wen. If this continues, the Empire might fall. Wen exclaimed. If it's really Swallow, we must make more efforts to stop him. This is the territory of the humans. We have the upper hand, Garrett interjected. Miss Wen, this is not something we can figure out with our strength. You felt that immense power right in front of you. We have no chance of winning right now. We need to head to the Demon Subjugation Coalition for more assistance and report to the Imperial family. So, I will move by myself first. In my current condition, I can't teleport the both of us, so Miss Wen, you stay here for now. And she used Whispers of Light, Cure, and said, It won't heal you completely, so please don't roam around and wait for me here. Wen asked. Wait, but we don't know when that monster will rampage again, Garrett pleaded. You should still wait, please, and use teleportation to disappear. Then the scene shifted to inside the auction house, where Swallow thought, So annoying, should I leave the ones who escaped and go to Harston? Or should I follow them and remove the risk factors? What should I do? Since I safely recovered the beheading Fang, let's just leave it at that. Moreover, I have a goal I must not forget. I should at least find Renee's body. Swallow turned to Mel's and said, Let's prepare. She, looking gloomy, replied, Okay. He asked, Is something wrong? She responded, No, there's nothing wrong. He questioned, What is it? It doesn't look like it's nothing. She addressed him as Sir Swallow and continued, You truly are strong. She thought she knew it due to what she saw back at the Demon King's castle. But the more she learned, it seems you're stronger than she expected. Though you said you're one of Ms. Renee's friends, you're much stronger than she thinks she was. Am I wrong? Or is Ms. Renee much stronger than she realized? Please tell me, Sir Swallow. She then inquired, Who actually are he? He lightly hit Mel's on the head and called her a brat, saying why she was depressed over something like that. He is just Sir Swallow. Once everything is taken care of, I will tell you the truth, okay? Mel's nodded in response. Swallow then said, Now let's finish things. Show them a power of the Demon Kings. She cast aside her hooded cloak and transformed into her version 2, saying, All right, Sir Swallow. Then using reconstruct magic to cause a huge explosion. People witnessing the explosion exclaimed, What the hell is that? And what is that explosion? She thought that place is the direction of the auction house. Damn, to do such a thing in the middle of the capital. Do those damned creatures know how many people there are in the capital? What should I do? As she stood up, she recalled what Garrett had said earlier. So please don't roam around and wait for me here, please. Frustration was evident on her face as she thought about that. But her thoughts were interrupted when a child grabbed her hand and said, Miss, my dad is over there, while crying. She clenched her fist firmly and shouted, It's all right, don't worry, everyone. I will take care of everything, because I am the hero Wen Historia. She thought to herself, I won't avoid a monster like that. Explosion have caused widespread destruction throughout the auction house. Swallow emerged from the rubble, calling out to Mel's. He asked her what the magic she had just used was called. In response, she replied that it was called reconstruction, a high-ranking magic that caused the ground to collapse. She then asked him if he thought everything was now tidy. He replied by asking if she really had nothing else she could have used in that situation. She defended herself by saying that he couldn't blame her for what had happened. He had started posing and said, Let's finish things. So she had used the coolest and most stylish magic. She questioned why he was now complaining. She added that if he wanted her to use a specific magic, he should have told her beforehand. He said that he trusted her to use her best judgment. Nervously laughing, he thought to himself that things were getting complicated. He then asked her if she remembered the way to that hub or whatever it was called. She said she remember it well. He said then go there and take care of it, since the humans will definitely be flocking that way. And he will leave it to her to making arrangements so he can go to Harston as soon as he arrived there. She said got it. She asked, but Sir Swallow, he has been saying Harston for a while now. But where is Harston? He turned to her and asked, Do you know where the core of the ancient is, right? She confidently said of course she does. She always says this. But her favorite dungeon is the core of the ancient. Her talk was interrupted as he said it's the town closest to there. She said to tell you the truth, she only know about the core of the ancient from books. He said it's fine, let's get going. As she walked away, she said you can leave the hub to her. She will protect it. He said sure, I'll follow soon. After a little walk he said they are already here. And he asked, how many people would that be? One of the individuals said they are of the Longlara House, one of the 9 pillars of the Empire, the Longlara Blue Crane subjugation team. He identified himself as the subjugation leader and asked, Who is he? Swallow believed that the others were busy getting into formation, and he didn't understand why humans behaved in such a way. However, he was worried upon hearing that a large number of people had gathered around the auction house, only to discover that they were soldiers of someone inside. He questioned, "Do you want to know who is he? Must he tell them?" And he declared, "I am their enemy." At that moment, in the core of the ancient, Sylvia expressed concern. She warned Nifrim that entering the cave meant risking never returning alive and the possibility of his soul becoming corrupted and wandering the world indefinitely. She suggested turning back, stating that it was still not too late. An irritated Nifrim responded, telling Sylvia not to mess around. However, she persisted, asking what would happen if she did mess around and calling him boring. She pointed out the strangeness of finding a room full of monster corpses, but encountering a clean room. Nifrim's eyes widened in realization, and he turned to the other members of the party, asking for their thoughts. The other members began their discussion with each other. One of them wondered if the Hishtalt's subjugation team could have made progress while cleaning up the place. He questioned whether a highly intelligent monster could have been responsible for the cleaning. Another member interrupted and asked if the dungeon had been attacked up until room 5. Excluding the boss room. He expressed disbelief that a monster could have cleaned up everything. He also questioned why a monster would clean up another monster's corpse in the first place. As the discussion continued among the party, Nifrim scanned the room and shouted at the supposed prankster monster, telling him not to play such foolish tricks. He asked if he was trying to deceive them. Patrick exclaimed in surprise, commenting on how loud Nifrim was and how it made his ribs echo. Anyway, to his regret, he didn't deceive them. He had simply cleaned up because it was unsightly to see everything lying around. He had gone to great lengths to clean because he had heard guests were coming. However, he warned that if they were cursed at, he would become upset. Nifrim turned to Sylvia, asked to illuminate the room with her magic. In response, Sylvia agreed and used illuminate magic to lighten the room. Patrick exclaimed, "Oh my, so bright." Well, in any case, they worked hard getting to such a rare place, even though he didn't call for them. He then greeted them saying welcome. He thought to himself, "Skeleton," and addressed him as the Death Knight Patrick. Irritated Patrick muttered, he even prepared an introduction for them, but it seems that was pointless. Now he can't even use the introduction. Dialogue he strenuously worked on all day to prepare. "Thanks a lot for that, you damned bastards." Continuing, Patrick said, "No, their reactions are too savage. Everyone, calm down for now and put away their weapons. Ms. Mage, can she put back her staff? And you over there, lower your fists." He then asked, "Did he say something weird?" At that moment, Nifrim rushed to attack him, but his attack was blocked. However, Nifrim exclaimed, "His bullshit ends here." Patrick criticized his lack of manners, stating, "He don't even give him time to breathe." As he distracted by him, Sylvia used Ice Bolt Shower to attack, surprising Patrick slightly. He commented, "He feel this every time. 1 versus all is definitely too much for him. Even though he will win, of course." Seizing the opportunity, Nifrim swiftly moved forward to launch an attack. Although most of the attacks were blocked by Patrick, one strike succeeded, causing him to lose grip of his sword and drop it to the ground. He thought regretfully that this outcome was unexpected and commented, "For a human his strength is good." Sylvia employed multiple buff spells on Nifrim, including Strong Body, Reading Omens, Light Feathers, Step of Silence, Boiling Blood, and Bone Ashes of Famous Warrior. He asked, "The secret to his strength was buff magic, isn't that quite unreasonable?" He also thought to himself that those buffs wouldn't last long, only 1 minute. If he could last just 1 minute, he might have a chance. Then Sylvia used multiple restraining spells on Patrick, causing him to freeze in one place. Patrick commented, "This is a bit problematic." In that moment, Nifrim caused Patrick to crash to the ground and stepped on his back, demanding, "Say that again. Who'll beat who?" He laughed and said, "Impressive." He never thought they would use magic to drive him into a corner. Other members of the party began to murmur quietly, "What is it? Already over?" "The core of the Ancient's Guardian isn't all that much," Patrick said as expected. Should he have gotten rid of the green-haired mage first? Nifrim stepped on him forcefully, causing the ground to break, uttering, "Shut up," and tried to deliver a lethal strike, but Patrick effortlessly blocked it with 2 fingers. Patrick started laughing, stating that was fun this time. He was really immersed in his acting. "Sorry." This caused Nifrim to sweat nervously. Patrick continued by saying he didn't plan to mess around at first, but he had been bored for the past few years. Even if it was just acting, he wanted to experience the feeling of crisis once. He thanked everyone for playing along to his rhythm. A little later, Nifrim shouted in confusion as he woke up and asked, "What just happened?" Patrick, noticing Nifrim's awakening, asked, "Oh, you're awake?" He replied it only took him just a few seconds to wrap things up after he collapsed. He said to him that it would be quicker for him to see it by himself. Out of all the humans to have encountered him so far, not one has ever survived, not a single one. He believed he knew these details since he knew his name, but it seems all he knows is his name, and nothing else. He threw the girl toward him and said, "Oh, still, that green-haired magician was quite challenging to deal with. Using wide-range divine magic makes his bones itch just thinking about it." He continued, "Anyway, is he Nifrim, right?" That magician kept calling out that name, until the very end. She called for him so desperately. He said that he had hoped for a more emotionally charged reaction, but his response was quite boring. Nifrim was quite ruthless. He said that now it was time for a survivor question and answer session. Even if Fimor was a moron, he wouldn't have sent just 30 people. And honestly, he was sorry to say this, but this subjugation party was subpar. And he asked, "So tell me, what is he hiding?" He said that since he was a very kind and generous skeleton, he was going to offer him some choices. If he was willing to answer, he should raise his right hand. If not, he should raise his left, he said. A wise choice. If he tell him everything, he will grant him a clean and painless death. He can't believe he was cursed in this way too. He said that he would respect his decision, and asked him to please die slowly. He thrust his sword into his back as he walked away, saying, "When will he ever clean up all of these?" Still, he guesses it'll be easier than before? A little later, he wondered if he was gone. He looked closely at the dead body of Sylvia and apologized, but acknowledged that he had to continue living. He began to consume her lifeless body, causing unsettling crunching sounds to reverberate. Patrick, who was hiding nearby, heard these sounds and thought to himself, "What an unpleasant noise." He had suspected that there was something hidden beneath the surface. He questioned whether consuming corpses made him stronger, and aided in healing his wounds. Furthermore, he pondered if this ability accumulated with each meal and if it was limited to human corpses only. He also questioned the source of this ability, whether it was alchemy or magic. As Nifrim continued with the gruesome act of eating, Patrick persisted in his thoughts. Since there were plenty of corpses available, he believed he should take his time to test this ability. Nonetheless, he wondered where his boss was and what he was doing, hoping that he wasn't engaged in any strange activities in an unusual location. The scene shifted to Capital Liaise, where Swallow stood upon hundreds of lifeless bodies. One approached him and she asked, "What is this?" Turning toward her, he asked, "Is she here to die too?" She replied, "No, she is wooing Historia, the hero," he stated. He never asked who she is. Well, he like her spirit, but she can't defeat him. As she rushed forward, thinking, even if that's true, she have to stop him. She employed a crushing blow once again to attack him, but this time he effortlessly blocked her assault. With a sigh, he apologized and said, "But she will only get to land one attack on him." He tightened his grip on her gauntlet and said, "Go on, try to escape again. If you can, that is." She thought to herself, she can't defeat him, but can she buy some time? As he slammed her to the ground, the impact caused the ground to collapse, and she coughed out some blood from her mouth. She persisted in her belief that she is a hero, and thus, her duty as a hero is to protect. Lifting her from the ground, he asked, "Is it over?" She responded, claiming to be a hero named Win Historia, expressing her refusal to be defeated. She declared her determination to protect her people from him. Despite her efforts to attack him, her strike proved ineffective. She asserted that being a hero meant she had to protect innocent people. He congratulated her, acknowledging that her sacrifice was not in vain. He promised to remember her name, although he was uncertain for how long. He expressed respect for her perseverance and offered her a painless death. However, before he could deliver the final blow, someone intervened by attacking him from behind, saving her from harm. Turning around, he questioned the identity of the individuals, comparing them to sausages that continued to appear one after another. One of them explained that she had taken drastic measures to save Ms. Wynne and apologized for their rude actions. He sarcastically asked if she would forgive someone who apologizes after hitting her on the back of her head. She expressed, "Allow me to extend my greetings, however belated they may be." She introduced herself as Arl Ethelbria's Gal Livison, a member of the Ethelbria's Black Tigers Order, and expressed her honor in meeting the almighty Lord Swallow. He inquired, "Did she just call him Lord Swallow? How did she know?" She replied that she simply had a talented person under her command who was able to recognize him. He thought that her smile was hiding something. He said, "Well, fine, but right now, I am in quite a bad mood and you are wasting my time. If you are planning to attack me after running your mouth, then just get it over with. She assured him that he was mistaken and they wouldn't dare to fight against him, Lord Swallow. They had no intention of fighting and had simply come to offer him a deal. He asked what kind of deal when he had nothing to regret. She better read the situation carefully, as insulting him would not result in an easy death for her. She believed that this was a gamble with the safety of the Empire on the line. She revealed that the original owner of the beheading Fong was still alive. She assumed that he didn't come all the way there just to retrieve a virtuous masterpiece. Lord Swallow, they had come to offer him aid in fulfilling his desires. He asked what she would do if he said he didn't have anything he wanted help with. He wondered if she would still be willing to assist him. Furthermore, he questioned what she would do if he came to obtain the beheading Fong out of boredom, but in reality, his true intention was to exterminate all humans. He pondered how she would react in that situation. This caused her to nervously sweat as she asked if he planned to destroy everything in the end, implying that it might not be worth trying to help him. He confirmed that she wanted to avoid destruction and instructed her to immediately find out where the owner of the item was. She agreed to follow his command and asked Garrett to step forward. Garrett acknowledged her request, addressing him as Lord Arl. She mentioned that he might have met her once before. She explained that in order to locate someone, she needed to examine the traces they had left on objects. She asked for permission to inspect the beheading Fong, if he was okay with it. He warned her that if she did anything foolish, she wouldn't just lose one arm. She assured him that she understood. She sensed someone who had left an overwhelming amount of traces. They were too far away to determine their precise location, but the person was moving west, in the direction opposite of Lie's Imperial Palace. He thought, "West, that's towards Harston," and he said, "That information is enough." He believed Renee was still alive. With a sigh of relief, he expressed gratitude, saying, "He is in your debt. He remembers you too." Arl said that he was honored to have helped him. He moved towards the teleportation hub while telling people in front to move. As he arrived at the hub, she said, "Sir Swallow, he is a bit too late." As he saw a large number of corpses in front, she said, "Look at this. I upheld my promise." She did well in defending the teleportation hub. With this, she thinks it's enough to say that the favor has been sufficiently returned. He said, "Yeah, it's enough. She worked hard," and he thanked her. "Let's see, is this how he use it? The cords are to Harston, and if he infuses his mana." But as he infused his mana into the teleportation hub, it exploded. He think it couldn't endure his mana? He was pretty confident, since his polymorph was quite stable though. If he used Demura's mana suppression function for transfer magic, wouldn't he be able to safely use teleport then? He would have to undo polymorph for that, but if he did, he would practically be announcing his existence to all the living things around him. Screw it, he had already screwed things up past the point of no return. It was too late to end things smoothly. As he removed Demura's mana stone, he destroyed the hub building as he reverted back to his original form. He think the coordinates are Harston, Magic Tower Wing. Then the scene shifted to Harston Magic Tower. One of the representatives of the tower said, "Welcome to the Magic Tower Wing. Your affiliation and house can be confirmed through a simple verification process." She asked, "Can I use transfer magic here?" He replied, "No, our magic tower has a resistor that surrounds the entire premises, so you cannot enter without going through the verification process." She said, "Then it looks like you can't escape death," and used her blade to kill him. She think, "When I first got here, I had a thought that the humans' magic towers are similar to dungeons." Sure enough, magic towers are basically dungeons made up of humans. They're just weak monsters. A little later, she continued with her thinking. She killed all the humans she could find on the first floor. All that was left was the top floor of the tower. Amr asked, "Oh my," she prepared quite a bit. "I wonder who the opponent was. But is it that noble young girl from before? So she wasn't a human?" She inquired about the location of the beheading Fong. Amr said that's already her property. She sees there's no point in telling her where it is, but she is curious about something. How is she still alive? As she assumed the stance to attack, Amr couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my! She is carrying around a weapon that doesn't match her cute face?" As she employed a magic shield, she asked, "But does she really think she can face the Magic Tower Guild Master with nothing but a blade like that? What does she plan to do using a blade with no attributes?" Her thoughts were interrupted as her shield was broken apart by Renee's attack. She couldn't help but think, her defensive magic in one go. This brat, no, this monster, Just how strong is she? Even so, this was a magic tower erected atop a spring of mana. If she used all the mana flowing in this place, she could definitely win. Renee asked, "Where's the beheading fong?" "Hurry up and tell me," she replied with disappointment. "What a shame. The beheading fong is no longer here. It's been a while since I put it up for auction. She used magic realm and think. She seems quite strong, so I will go all out from the start." She unleashed various spells, employing Lance of Longinus, Divide, Chase, Accelerate, and Depravity of Holy Light. Amr said, "Try piercing through this." Following his words, there was a sizable explosion as the spell took effect, resulting in destruction and a cloud of dust. As the dust settled, Amr saw Renee being pierced by multiple magic blades and coughing up a lot of blood on the floor. Amr said, "Exactly, this is what happens when a monster dares to pretend to be human." Amr thought this is top-class magic that not even most dungeon bosses can withstand. There's no way someone like her can handle it. However, Amr's thoughts were interrupted as Renee cut off both her hands, and she crashed to the floor in pain. She said, "It hurts." "How did this happen?" Renee continued, "All I did was cut off her hands." "Don't make such a fuss, human." She voiced her unwillingness to die, emphasizing her determination to live as she crawled on the ground and urgently pleaded, "Save me." She thinks it's over. Any trace of her has been erased. Now what is she supposed to do? What's left for her? She is tired if she falls asleep now. But her thoughts were interrupted as someone said, "Leader?" She turned around and saw a green-haired person named Hyam. Said, "Leader, how did this happen?" "Get a hold of yourself," she said. "It's Hyam, right?" He said, "Just hold on, you have to." But his talk was interrupted as she said, "It hurts, hurry and treat." "No, kill that bitch." He turned around to find Renee gravely wounded. He said, "Calm yourself, leader. You have lost too much blood." And he asked, "Do you see what this is?" She asked, "What is it?" "I can't see it clearly." He said, "Oh my, you can't see it? It's a mana stone with high-rank magic that allows you to escape from here. But I don't have enough mana to activate it. You have to imbue your own mana to activate it." She thinks that's the same thing that's in the love stone. How could she forget that unpleasant feeling? Amr said, "Thanks, now she can live." As she imbues her mana into the stone, the curse activates and she starts screaming in pain. He says she has too many enemies. How bad must it be for Rin to come and seek revenge? Even in her own family, within the grommets. How bad must it have been for them to give the order to get rid of her the moment she acted suspiciously? Turning to Renee, he asks, "Isn't that right?" He says he is grateful to her for doing his job for him. But at this rate, she might come after him this time. Isn't that right? So this is a form of insurance that'll buy him enough time to escape. "Goodbye then," he says. Renee thinks she can't see out her right eye anymore. That's not an opponent she can beat with a completely battered body and without a proper weapon. But that's enough. Pathetic. She will pay the price here. She will erase any trace of herself forever. She said, "Still, don't you dare try to cover Lord Swallow's scent with those dirty hands. Not even if I die." She leaped onto her adversary, driving her blade into her eye. In response, her adversary hit back, thinking, if he finds out she died, will Lord Swallow be sad? At that moment, Lord Swallow teleported there and caused the magic tower to collapse. He asked, "Is she okay?" When she was first saved, it was a similar situation to this. Her body and mind were sapped of strength, and she couldn't find the meaning of life. The one who appeared before her was Lord Swallow. Renee looked at Lord Swallow with surprise on her face, wondering why he was there. After they landed, he released his grip on her, and she moved away from his arm to sit on the ground. Lord Swallow instructed her to wait for him there. She questioned if this was her delusion. Lord Swallow turned to face Amr, who was cursed, and approached her. He asked Amr how dare she do that and threatened to show her who she was messing with. Shifting into his combat form, Lord Swallow swiftly attacked, delivering a punch. He remarked that she didn't know her place, and using his demonic power, conjured multiple spears that penetrated her body, visibly traversing from the inside out. In retaliation, Amr attempting to consume him, she started coiled around his arm. Enraged, he lifted her with his arm and forcefully slammed her to the ground, causing the earth to crack beneath them. However, her wounds healed quickly, and in another attempt to consume him, she once again began to coil around his fist. Frustrated, he slammed her to the ground once more. Disgusted by her, her blood splattered on the ground and understanding dawned on him. Wondering how she continuously regenerated herself, he discovered that her power source was the magic tower's mana. Meanwhile, she regenerated her body again and launched her attack. In response, he stood still and remarked, "Well then, it's easier." He stated this and reverted to his original form, consuming her alive. After swallowing her, he uttered, "Yuck, she tastes bad." Looking at Renee, He became a little nervous and sat beside her. He said, there were a lot of things he wanted to say when he got to meet her, but now that we're here, his mind's gone blank. If he knew this would happen, he would have written it down or something. Also, he met a green-haired human on his way here, you see? He did kill him, but that won't cause a problem or anything, right? In response, Renee remained silent. He said, Renee, he is sorry for what he did a few days ago. Renee stated, no, there's nothing Lord Swallow should be sorry for. It's Renee who doesn't have the right to face Lord Swallow, he said. But the core of the ancient needs a guardian named Renee. To him she is also a necessity. Renee questioned, isn't Lord Swallow resentful of her? He stated he don't resent her. She questioned, does Lord Swallow hate her? He stated he don't hate her. Standing up, he said, oh yeah, he have something for her. It's the item she left behind. He handed her the beheading thong, and she tightly hugged it, starting to cry. While sobbing, she uttered she was scared of being abandoned and hated by him. He assured her that he wouldn't abandon her, and didn't hate her. Let's go back, Renee. Back to the core of the ancient. Renee reminisced about the past memory when Lord Swallow had taken her into the core of the ancient for the first time. Swallow exclaimed, that's a homunculus? He had met her during the previous arson case that had happened in Grape Nia. But then, he had encountered her again at the lab, so he had decided to bring her along since it seemed like fate. Patrick asked, then, that means this small body holds all the knowledge about homunculus research? Moreover, seeing how she was completely unfazed inside the room of the strongest boss in the core of the ancient, also known as the lair of demons due to the thick dark energy flowing in this dungeon, it implied she had the mental strength and physique to handle anything. Patrick inquired, boss, what is he going to do with this child? Swallow replied, well, he is going to let her live here. It seems like she has a lot of talent, so first, we're going to teach her how to fight, and if teaching doesn't seem to work, let's just let her live in peace. She has experience as a maid, so maybe we can have her cook or something? Patrick exclaimed, wait a minute, boss, is he being serious right now? Who's going to educate her? Swallow pointed towards him and said, you, so cheer up. Patrick asked. No, why him? Swallow replied. Don't play so hard to get. He was bored since he had nothing else to do, Patrick thought. Well, being a homunculus, her physical abilities will certainly be outstanding, and there may still be some lingering subconscious resentment toward humans. He then asked, so boss, what's the child's name? Swallow said, what was it? He believed he heard it before when they first met. Renee tried to speak and finally said, Lelo. Patrick asked, is Lelo her full name? Nothing more? Swallow asked, do he need more? Patrick asked, since boss is the master, why not make her a new one? Swallow thinks to himself, after a little thinking, what about Renee? Patrick replied, that's nice. Then it would be Renee Lelo. And he's sleeping again, damn boss. He sat down and said, alright then, Renee, let's start by learning how to smile. Back to the present, Patrick asked, is he smiling in this situation? What on earth did he do at Harston to make the ground shake like this? Did he dance wildly in the middle of the village or something? Swallow responded, he know there's always an exception in a monster's life. Patrick pointed towards Mel's and asked, so what's that exception? Swallow replied, well, this is also quite a long story. Patrick interrupted, wait boss, did he just kidnap a child? Swallow scoffed, does he really think he bothered to do something that troublesome? Patrick questioned, anyway, where's Renee, and why did he bring this kid instead? Swallow explained, you see, he met Renee at a human village. Patrick exclaimed, so he did meet her, was she injured? Swallow replied, she looked tired, perhaps they were restricting and limiting Renee's life. Patrick added, no, if he had been rejected just say so. Why is he expressing it so poetically? Swallow stated, well, so from now on, he will have to wear a maid costume and manage the dungeon. In response, Patrick said his resignation letter is always ready, boss. He then asked, so what is he going to do now? Swallow sighed and said there's nothing else to do but wait here, he guess, since he don't know when she'll be back. Patrick said he understood, and he thought it was best to leave the boss alone when he was in this state. It may be tough and depressing, but after some time, seeing Renee, Patrick said, boss, she's here. Swallow asked, who? Patrick asked, who do he think? And said, the one he have been waiting for the most. At that moment Renee approached and asked, Lord Swallow, have you eaten yet? And said if not, would he like her to prepare it now? Seeing Renee's right eye, Patrick turned to Swallow in surprise and asked, boss, did he? He stopped midway in his question as he noticed one of Swallow's eyes was missing. Patrick thought, did he finally go insane to give her that? Or was he sincere enough to give it to her while being sane? The scene transitioned to The conclusion of Swallow's final battle at Harston. Swallow said her right eye, "It's completely ruined." If she could see properly, would she have been able to tell it apart? Just like he said before, if she still has that heart, she doesn't care when just look at it properly, and give him a original love stone next time. Back to the present, Renee happily said now, she will always be with Lord Swallow. The following day, as Mel's woke up, she wondered where she was and what had happened while rubbing her eyes. Mel's was shocked as she saw Patrick in front of her sharpening a knife. Trembling, Mel's said she is dead and asked, "Is he the Grim Reaper? And is this hell?" Patrick stated, "Excuse me, but this isn't that kind of place. This is the core of the ancient." Mel's questioned, "What?" And she stated, "Then he is not the Grim Reaper, but Patrick?" In response, Patrick stated she is quick to catch on. As he stood up, he said, "He don't know when he will wake up." He moved towards the nearby sleeping Swallow, and while hitting him stated, "Boss, wake up." Swallow questioned, "He was just having a nice nap, what now?" Observing Mel's wakefulness, he understood why Patrick had awakened him. Mel saw Swallow, and became frightened, sweating, nervous. Kneeling before him, she stated, "Greeting to the owner of the core of the ancient, and the embodiment of all things, the guardian of God who punishes those trembling in fear, the ancient beast that stands above all things, Lord Swallow." "Mel's," said the king. "No, that's not it. My apologies. Let me introduce myself." Swallow stated she is the 17th descendant of Demon Asmodeus, Mel's d'Agria. He already memorized it. She questioned, "How does Lord Swallow know her name? Did Swald tell him this? By the way, have he seen Swald?" She definitely remember him punishing the humans in Liaise and retrieving the beheading fawn, but Swallow said it, him. She asked Lord Swallow, "What did he just say?" Swallow stated he is Swald, making Mel's nervous again, while Mel's thinks, then, what disgrace have she shown toward Lord Swallow? As Patrick turned to Swallow, he questioned, "Boss, the words that Demon King Mel stated about the topic of punishing the humans in Liaise, what have he not told him?" Swallow became aware that Patrick was now interrogated him intensively. At that moment, at the border of Grapenea Forest and Harston territory, an individual chuckled and inquired, "What's going on?" They said not to enter, but nothing happened. This forest is teeming with herbs and mushrooms. Soon after, he spotted a person lying nearby, visibly wounded. As he drew closer, it was Nifrim in need. Attempting to aid him with herbal remedies, Nifrim unexpectedly attacked and started devouring him. The scene then shifted to Hastings Wall, a distance away, where a person in ragged attire laughed and casually stated that he had to go. At the core of the ancient dungeon, the battlefield was set. To survive in such a hostile environment, there were several virtues one must possess, and one of those virtues was maintaining a minimum level of tension. Renee sternly told Mel's if she truly consider herself a demon king, please stay still for a moment. She has mentioned multiple times that silence is a basic rule in Lord Swallow's room. Mel's defiantly replied no. She refused. She is a free dungeon monster. Furthermore, she lived here in the core of the ancient before becoming the Demon King. She came here to speak with Lord Swallow. Renee sighed and explained she already told her that Lord Swallow is resting right now. Mel's argued that is exactly why she is needed. Until Lord Swallow can comfortably fall asleep, she planned to stick close and share her warmth by Lord Swallow's side. Renee is too conservative in this aspect, too inflexible, like a boomer. An irritated Renee exclaimed, did she just call her a boomer? Renee chased after Mel's, shouting, just die. Meanwhile, Mel's laughed and ran away from her. Patrick, who had been observing the situation, thought to himself, maintaining a minimum level of tension is like hell. His thoughts were interrupted as Swallow spoke up. They're so noisy that he can't sleep. Patrick replied he is not in any position to be saying that, boss. Thanks to a certain someone, the outside is in chaos right now. Swallow questioned, why is it that bad? Patrick retorted, have he not read any of the newspapers he gave him? It seems that due to forcefully mobilizing troops to strengthen Imperial capital Liaise defense, villages on the border are being devastated by monsters. Additionally, the Lord of Harston has committed suicide, and as a result Harston is now completely paralyzed. Swallow acknowledged that does sound serious. Patrick continued, also he have searched through all available human newspapers for the past 3 weeks, but there are only 3 articles related to Harston. Do he know what this means? Swallow stated he didn't know. Patrick questioned if he even thought before he talked and mentioned that he was ready to give him his resignation letter at any moment. Nervously, Swallow apologized and said he was sorry. Yawning, Swallow then questioned Patrick what he is thinking. Patrick replied that he wasn't sure and didn't have any information to share. From what he could guess, Harston seemed to be cut off from all interactions with the outside world, possibly because he was the one who caused havoc in the entire village. Patrick remembered the amount of damage he had caused. The complete absence of any news from a village that suffered catastrophic damage was not a good sign. However, the core of the ancient needed Harston, so if they kept an eye on Harston, they would be able to know the size of the subjugation party and when they would challenge them. Patrick felt the need to hurry and head to Harston, as he didn't know what might happen if he waited any longer. Swallow wished him a safe trip, and told him not to push himself too hard. He thinks, hoping that Patrick would go on his own. Patrick assured him that he would come back as soon as possible. Swallow was surprised by this, and waved his tail in excitement. He thought to himself that he just had to tell Patrick to go so that he could finally get some sleep. However, Patrick interrupted his thoughts by mentioning that he thought it would be tough for him to go alone. He suggested that it would be better if at least one person accompanied him. Swallow turned around to select a person to go with Patrick, but noticed that Renee and Mel's were fighting with each other. Swallow considered Mel's as a first candidate but realized that she was dangerous. He compared her to explosion magic, and if she used any of the magic she used back at the capital, the village would be destroyed forever. Then he turned to the second candidate, Renee, and thought about her nature. In his thoughts, he pondered she was good, and if she should stay here, he believed that Renee is far more dangerous than explosive magic, and staying still would be helpful. So he begged her to just stay still, please. His thoughts were interrupted by Patrick, who suggested that the boss accompany them on this mission since it was uncertain how long it would take. Swallow believed that he was already caught in Patrick's trap and couldn't escape. He felt like he was being dragged away. Realizing something, Swallow stated that it seemed like he was the best option for this situation, but unfortunately he couldn't use polymorph because he had broken the Daimalaira something bracelet. Patrick understood and said that if he didn't have the bracelet, he couldn't come with him. Swallow happily thought that it worked and he didn't have to go. Now he could finally get some sleep. A little later, Swallow reverted to his human form and said that he was really going to die painfully. Patrick, wearing full-plated armor, laughed and informed him that he was already dead despite going through the trouble of cursing him. Swallow mentioned that Patrick had that side to him as well. Patrick questioned if Swallow had said at first that he couldn't go since he didn't have the Demura bracelet. In other words, if he had it, he would be able to go right away. Swallow exclaimed that wasn't the point and called Patrick a freak. As they reached the village, Patrick announced that they were reached their destination. He remarked that the boss had caused even more damage than he had anticipated. He explained that there were 4 simple ways to know how active a human village was. Swallow asked what they were, and Patrick explained that the first way was to see how crowded the market was. Swallow observed that there was no one there and suggested that they go back. Patrick continued by saying second is to check how much smoke is being produced from the chimneys. We should have tried checking for this before the humans ate dinner, but we're too late for that. Swallow asked, so since it's late, can we go back? Patrick said third is to see how many mercenaries and subjugation parties are at the subjugation request board, but since Harston doesn't have one, let's move on. Swallow requested let's just go back, please. Patrick added, and lastly the inn and pub. Today we're checking this. His talk was interrupted as Swallow asked what's the hold up. Let's go. As Swallow opened the door of the inn, Patrick said but he think it's wise not to expect too much from this. Swallow asked the host are there any rooms? As they saw the destruction inside, Patrick commented this is the worst. This village is not functioning like a normal one at all. Then the scene shifted to a number of corpses and an undead sorcerer used a magic spell on the corpses, causing them to start moving. He said everyone has worked hard. After we get through Harston, we'll go to the Empire's capital, Liège, the heart of our enemy's territory. Humanity is weaker than ever in the face of the Black Calamity, making it the most suitable time to destroy the Empire. At the inn in Harston, Swallow exclaimed this is serious to think that the inn would be so empty. Patrick observed it looks like Harston has been completely isolated. Curious, he inquired who is he? The person responded he is the owner of this inn. An owner questioned for what reason have he come? Patrick explained he is a knight of the Patarian Black Dog subjugation team from Natrange. Patrick suspected he's suspicious that we may be assailants. He stated they require a simple meal and a place to sleep to relieve their fatigue. The inn owner apologized the customer sorry about that, but they have no food here to serve a knight. In fact, it's not just him. There won't be anywhere in this village where he can find a place to eat. Patrick questioned is that because of the Black Calamity? An owner acknowledged so he knew about that. Then he trusts that he will understand. He is sorry, but they don't even have a room ready. He asked for his understanding. Patrick thought, well, in this current situation the price of water is more expensive than the cost of lodging. He tossed a gold coin towards the inn owner and instructed, take this. Patrick inquired, what do he think, are the rooms still not ready? Upon seeing the gold coin, the inn owner's behavior changed and he respectfully replied, please right this way up these stairs. See Swallow, he asked. Sorry, but the person behind him, who is that? Patrick clarified, he's his slave. Even though he's his slave, he helps him a great deal, and that's why he is treating this slave so well. So this slave can stay in the same room as him. Right where? Did he say the room where this slave and he will stay is? As Swallow entered the room, he exclaimed, it's better than he was expecting. This bed's mine. This is way better than the place he stayed at in Liège with Mel's. Patrick responded, right, it's a good room. Swallow pondered. Now that he thinks of it, was slave the only thing he could think of? Patrick replied, of course, boss. Aren't the clothes he is wearing now the most comfortable? If he keeps wearing those shabby clothes, he will be treated like a beggar. It's better to be treated like a slave instead. If he acts like a beggar, he doesn't know when and how someone will pick a fight, but a slave is the property of their master, so others can't mess with them as easily. Since he can't even be bothered to change clothes, it was a reasonable judgment for him to make, wasn't it? He asked, boss, don't he want to move as little as possible? And he said, then it's in your best interest to listen to what he says. Swallow exclaimed, what he is saying is reasonable, master. Patrick stated, then he will be stepping out for a second rest up, boss. As Patrick began to leave the room, Swallow advised he don't recommend pushing himself that hard from day one. Patrick reassured, don't have to worry about him so much, boss. After all, it's nighttime. There are places he can roam around as much as he wants, right? A little later at the city square, Patrick pondered the reason the Black Calamity descended on Harston's great square. The imperial family vented their anger over the attack of the Black Calamity, and must have needed someone to take responsibility for their successive failures in subjugating the core of the ancient. However, before the imperial hand could extend its reach, Harston's Lord Count Atark died. So who is the Lord of Harston now? He had been quite curious all this time. Patrick thought it was obvious that the royal family had lost their chance and would direct their anger at the family. Given that, would Count Atark's descendants really inherit the title? At Lord of Harston's castle, Patrick said, well then, let's go take a look at the new lord's face, shall we? As he tried to enter the castle, Patrick realized he was in trouble. Security was tighter than he had thought. He could kill them or knock them unconscious, but that would just lead to more of a mess when the sun rose, wouldn't it? Sure enough, it was wiser not to rush. He had a specific place in mind when he came here. It seemed that humans couldn't sense it, but he could. To think that the strong lingering scent of corpses would be here. Let's go this way first, he decided. Back at the inn room, Swallow thought, well, it's nice to sleep well in a cool dungeon, but this isn't so bad every once in a while either. At that moment, someone knocked at the door. Swallow thinks, but they never let him sleep comfortably. The inn owner shouted, Sir Knight, is he inside? Swallow replied, no, master went for a night walk. The inn owner said, I see. Then would he come downstairs? It's been served a little earlier than normal, but he prepared a meal. They say starving his customers is something an inn owner should never do after all, and since Sir Knight paid a very high price, he have to at least pay in kind as he can. Now that he think about it, they haven't even introduced themselves. His name is Novin Hedeker, please feel free to call him Mr. Novin. Swallow said, he is Swald. Mr. Novin replied, right, Swald. He hope he is not disappointed when he go downstairs. There was so little food that he wasn't able to prepare much. Swallow asked, is the situation in Harston really that bad? Mr. Novin stated that, as the name suggests, it was quite literally a calamity. Most of the residents who saw the calamity with their own eyes immediately lost their minds. Immediately after that incident, the Lord committed suicide. And after that, as he can see, all traffic to Harston was cut off. Beyond the castle walls, the corpses of the starved line the streets. He doesn't know what he came to see in a place like this, but it would be best to leave as soon as he can. He is going to do the same he sees. He should know well himself what happens to a person when they are cornered. At that moment, a girl with red hair named Rosalina entered the Swallow room through the window. She thought to herself, observing the room, they're definitely outsiders choosing to stay in this village despite its current state. And to top off it, they're staying in the most expensive room at the inn. They must have a lot of money, she mused. She mentioned that she needed to take anything she could sell for money. As she picked up the Swallow coat, a foul odor emanated from it, causing her to pinch her nose. Disgusting, she muttered. She wondered if the customers here were not as wealthy. If she held on to the coat, she could use it instead of a bindle. She began searching through the room for any valuable items. After a while, she grew concerned concerned when she found nothing. This isn't good. Did they take everything and leave? She questioned. Opening one of the drawers, she reassured herself that they wouldn't have taken everything. Her eyes nervously fell upon something Patrick had left behind. A little later, Patrick returned to the room and mentioned that he had gone for a quick peek at the Lord's castle. He questioned him what he had been up to. Exactly what he see him doing now, Swallow replied. He explained that he had planned on catching a glimpse of the new Lord's face, but the security was tighter than he had anticipated, so he returned empty-handed. Boss, did he discover anything? He inquired. Swallow asked if he really expected that of him. Patrick clarified that he was just asking out of politeness. Apparently Harston has been cut off from the outside world. Even the owner doesn't know much, Swallow informed him. This revelation shocked Patrick. Curious, Swallow asked what was going on with him. Patrick confessed that he was shocked that he had actually done something. So that's how it is. Harston has been isolated from the outside world, he exclaimed. He suggested that they learn more about it the next day. Patrick proposed. Swallow told Patrick to do it on his own. Patrick responded by saying they needed to do it together. He noticed that both windows were open despite his request to keep them closed. He expressed concern about the possibility of getting robbed. Swallow was confused and denied touching the windows. Patrick laughed at the idea of a ghost being responsible, and Swallow suggested that someone must have opened the windows. They quickly checked their belongings and discovered that Swallow's coat and Patrick's belongings were missing. Swallow mentioned that Renee had made the coat for him. Patrick revealed that his rib was also stolen. As Rosalina reached a narrow back alley, she expressed relief and questioned if it was good enough. Suddenly someone called her name. She turned around and was surprised to see Toth, who questioned her whereabouts and warned her about wandering around at night. She explained that there was a valid reason for her actions, as it was for the well-being of everyone involved. Toth disagreed, suggesting that it was pointless and only resulted in hunger. She disagreed and asked Toth to open the coat bind. At that moment their boss approached them and advised Toth not to be too harsh. Both Rosalina and Toth were surprised by the boss's intervention. The boss explained that thieves shouldn't fear the dark, but wandering around without informing anyone was a mistake. He emphasized the need to think before acting and consider the harm it could cause to others. The boss also mentioned that their current situation was different from their old house, which had warmly embraced Rosalina. She said, "Okay, she will be careful, boss." The boss stated that he thought she understood and asked what she did. She exclaimed, "Hang on, look at this." The boss inquired if she stole it. She replied, "Yes, boss." She felt like she had to pull her own weight too. The boss asked where she got it from. She replied he knows the inn on the main street. She got it from a really expensive room. It was clean and being stored deep in the drawer. So it's gotta be a really expensive artifact. The boss stated this is the rib of a human. She exclaimed, "Wait, it's a human's bone?" She didn't know. Toth asked if she by any chance robbed a grave. She denied it. The boss said it can't have been a grave, otherwise she wouldn't have shown it off so proudly. She agreed, saying, "Yeah, that's right." The boss explained this is a bone used either for someone's wicked hobby or for magic purposes. Toth asked if there is anyone that collects human ribs. The boss replied this world is overflowing with rotten trash that amputates the limbs of slaves to make ornaments out of them. He can't be sure. This could be a human's bone, or it could be the bone of someone who used to be human. The boss thought if by any chance it belongs to someone who studies necromancy or black magic, then it's even more dangerous. It's definitely suspicious. Not to mention the clothes. Just looking at it, it seems like shabby clothes that a beggar would wear, but the fabric used is of the highest quality. As he lifted the coat, he heard a noise from the coat. The boss thought brat she was so out of it that she didn't even check the pockets. He checked the pockets and found gold coins in them, making them surprised. She asked, "How much is that?" The boss scolded them, saying, "Fools, this isn't the time to be happy." She protested, but she went through so much trouble trying to find it. This time she went to the right place. The boss believed that customers staying at a luxury inn in a crumbling village should have been noticed sooner. A human's rib clothing made from luxury fabrics and a large quantity of gold coins were involved. There was a realization that they had messed with something they should never have trifled with. At that moment, Patrick remarked, "It seems his precious items are doing well." He made a declaration to the thieves, "Hello there. We've come to collect back our things." Notification about this Manhwa series. All the chapters that were released are included in this video until today. Notification about next part. This marks the conclusion of the 5th part of this manhwa. The 6th part will be posted after there were at least 3 to 4 chapters of this manhwa released, so remember to like and subscribe to the channel for future update. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.